Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Transatlantic Call-In Show. This is the show where you get to call in and talk to two trans people about all of your questions, anything and everything trans. I am steering your ship today. I am Arden Hart, and with me is Luxander. What's going on, Lux?
Hello! I just got done with my shoulder-focused workout, so I'm looking forward to becoming Abby from The Last of Us.
Hell yeah.
It's a good day. Yeah. How are you today?
Doing all right. Lots of... Oh my God. I mean, I've been saying this on TACIS for ages, and we were talking about this before, but there's just a constant oscillation between like hope and motivation and being like, oh, I'm so ready, and like then a lot of despair and fear. And so I feel like I am maybe a little bit closer to the latter at this exact moment, but it's the oscillations are so intense right now. So
pick a lane. But
for
no,
real.
it doesn't work that way.
I wish I could just tell my brain to pick a lane, but the world keeps not picking a lane, and so my brain is just kind of responding to stimuli.
Mm-hmm.
Also, Jolene said, "Love the haircut." Thank you. Yeah, I cut like a lot off my hair. Like I haven't really had my hair this short since I like started transitioning. My hair was basically this long when I started. You can tell little me was like, I'm just growing my hair out for fun, just as like an experiment to try something. And then
little egg
moment. But no, yeah, thanks. So it's it's getting summertime, and I'm like, let's just cut it all off.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so we are going to get started taking some calls here very shortly. The number is 720-619-2288. That's 720-619-2288. There's also a web link in the description. If you are calling from out of the US, we are also going to take super chats at the end. Any super chat of $5 or more, we will read out live. And if you include hashtag Team Arden or hashtag Team Lux in your super chat, hashtag no vote, you get a vote towards our little silly competition that makes us defend ridiculous positions, because what's the fun here if we can't laugh a little bit? We talk about a lot of serious topics. It gets a little depressing from time to time. And so we like to try to have some fun at the end of the show to lighten everyone's mood. Do you have anything else you wanted to add? Or is anything going on with you before we jump into the polls and then...
I feel like the polls will give us a little bit of an opportunity to kind of expand a little bit on like, what's going on? How's it going? I'm considering changing my entire career, but I don't have any announcements yet to make. So
hell yeah.
We'll see.
Right.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh yeah, it's Beltane. Happy Beltane to everybody who observes. It's May Day. Beltane is like the pagan version of Valentine's Day. And I think, if I can make the plan for it tonight, it's going to be really warm today, so maybe I don't want to bake. Maybe tomorrow, I'm going to bake. One of my favorite things that you can do for Beltane is bake a bread that is shaped like penis and balls, because it's like a fertility festival. So
I love that.
That's like my favorite thing. Yeah. Anything that lets me draw dicks on things is going to be a good holiday.
Is that like a modern adaptation, or they've been baking dick bread for like many, many years? Because
I don't know.
Sounds like the kind of thing humans would do.
It does sound like that. Well, I mean, you think of like the maypole itself, like is a phallic symbol of fertility. So I think that basically anything that has those vibes is appropriate. Although I don't know how much of this is historically sourced versus how much of it is just like a revival of what we think people would have done before, plus our little modern humor. But no, people have been drawing dick and balls on things for forever. There's like, even in Pompeii, there's like, I fucked a girl here in graffiti on the wall. Yeah, like it's classic human behavior.
Oh God, I love humans. We just had Erica Gutsa-Gibbon on the Hang Up last night, and I got more fascinating facts about apes, and it's just like, they continue to blow my mind at how like we like to really think of ourselves as so much smarter than them, but realistically, we are so similar. She was talking about how a lot of the hand gestures that apes do overlap, or I think it was specifically with chimps, but correct me if I'm wrong, chat, overlap like 90% with the kinds of hands expressions that infants do. Like the kind of like reaching out for something and like grabbing to like pick me up. That is all like primitive fucking ape behavior in our brains, and that shit blows my mind. And I got there because apes love to fuck too, you know. So there are
Yeah, of course.
our siblings in fuckery, and it's just
Right.
awesome. I love it
It's
so
like
much.
bonobos, I think, who are like really known for using sex as a form of like currency almost, and like tons of lesbianism and oral sex. Like, yes, go get it, please, yes.
Eric was talking about how they would like put a box in front of a bunch of bonobos in like one like experiment or test or something, and that they would all get so excited about wanting to investigate the box that they would just start having sex to like diffuse the excitement before they checked out the box. And just the notion of being so excited that you just start having group sex with your friends is so funny to me. I'm like, that is honestly, I feel like that's what humans would do if they were a little bit more liberated, you know? We're like so much repression there. It's just really funny.
Yeah, awesome.
All right, so we're gonna check out our polls. See, we do try to lighten the mode with funny things here. The mood. Okay, so last week's poll read, should trans people stay and fight in places with restrictive laws or move to safer areas? And with 6.7 thousand votes, 32% said yes, stay and fight, and 68% said no, move to somewhere safer.
That seems like a lot of votes. I don't know if that's in line with what we usually get, but it seems like a lot.
I think it's around there. Seems pretty normal. We've had some that were even higher, but that's, I think, around like 6 to 7 is probably average. But yeah, I mean, this is pretty straightforward. I don't think I need to explain this question to you guys. I mean, like, I don't think there's a right answer either, by the way. Like, part of me feels deeply inclined towards the stay and fight principle, mostly because, you know, as like a white privileged trans woman, I feel like it's probably the negative effects are going to hit me last. And maybe I have a greater obligation to like stay and, you know, try to help contribute to the fight against things for those who can't move. But also, it's really hard to judge anyone for making the decision to live somewhere where they can feel safe and where they can like breathe a little bit easier in their day-to-day life. Like, I'd be lying if I said that it wasn't stressful here. You know, I just worked at an expo this past weekend in a town over, and the person next to us was very vocally and loudly pro-LGBT. So I told her I was trans, and we were having a conversation about just various queer stuff and being in Texas. And when I told her I was trans, she was like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry." not because it's like, not because she wasn't even being offensive, but we were just kind of talking about the stress of being queer in Texas. And that was kind of where that came from. And I was like, yeah, you know, I mean, like, I don't even know when we go to a given expo, like, I don't check every city, but like, I'm sure there are some cities where their laws are more restrictive because different cities have different ordinances on like bathroom access and things like that. So, yeah, it's a little exhausting and frustrating, but I do also feel compelled to stay on some level. So I don't know. What do you think, Lex? Tell me your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe there's like sort of a false dichotomy in that, like, I think stay and fight phrasing could imply like that you'd stop fighting when you go somewhere else. But like, I moved from Kansas to Oregon, and I feel more situated to fight here. There is, of course, the additional question of like leaving the country, and I really don't want to do that. So, you know, there's that tension as well of like, you know, I have kind of always wanted to live in the Pacific Northwest, but I didn't move only because I wanted to move here. I moved because I felt forced out of the place where I was born. Like, it sucks to feel like, you know, I lived in a little blue area of Kansas, and then like, if I leave that bubble, then suddenly it's MAGA hats, and it's like, I'm worried. And I have experienced back home, like, people being upset that I'm queer in public, like at the Renaissance Festival, which is a place that I like had to basically inform this woman that she had entered a queer space by coming to the Ren Fair. Like, if you don't like queer people, then you probably shouldn't be here. So yeah, I think that, of course, we can't make prescriptions for anyone. We can't say, oh, you should move, because that leaves out so many people who can't move. And even with leaving the country, you know, many trans people like are disabled. Trans people are more likely, queer people in general, I should say, are more likely to be disabled than the general population. Yeah. So we are facing those additional difficulties of other countries don't want you to come if you're disabled. So yeah, there's no right or wrong answer here. I completely understand that, like, if you leave Kansas, then that's another, like, blue vote that's gone, but, like, it's heavily gerrymandered, so what was your vote really doing there anyway? And, I have my younger sibling whose access to hormones would have just been cut off if we had stayed in Kansas. So it's not always just about you, too. It's about the young people in your life and making life safer for them too. So yeah, it's no right answer, million different ways to look at it. I just think that people should do whatever is going to make them most effective. And if you're going to be effective and able to stay in the fight in your red state, then like, yeah, do that. Or if you want to move to somewhere blue and say, okay, from here, I'm going to pressure my legislators to like stay blue. I live in like a rural county in Oregon. And so that is like, okay, from within a blue state, I can help turn a rural county more purple. And yeah,
Mhm.
that's just like what I have chosen to do. I do not want to leave the country because I like it in this part of my country. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah. No, totally. It's really hard to. This question is framed as sort of a false dichotomy, totally. But yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, people complain about our polls no matter really how we phrase them. So I try
totally.
to do things and I try to orient them certain ways. Sometimes I do it to trigger you guys and make you comment because it's really easy when you really try because you do it no matter
Mhm.
what I do. Um, but yeah, no, there's definitely no right answer to this, and I totally agree that like I think how effective you are in your given area should probably be one of the more important factors because like even if you have the privilege and you are staying and fighting, but you are so stressed that you aren't going out, you aren't socializing with people, you aren't actually able to like connect with your community and to take the time to fight harder, then what really service are you doing to that area by staying there? So yeah, there's no right or wrong answer here. Just kind of exploring the topic of the need for trans people to become political refugees in our own country. So with that, we're going to look at this week's poll, and then I'm going to put that up in the chat for you guys, and then we're going to take some calls. So this week's poll reads, should the results of an autism screening have an impact on access to gender affirming care? So I will put that up in the chat here in just a second, and I'll let you guys get voting on it. Uh, oops. Why is that poll not giving me options? Hello? There we go. All right. Yeah, that is up and live. We are going to jump over to our calls now, and we will come back to that in a little bit when we've seen what some of the results are. So let's see. Do we have any? Okay, I don't know if I see any necessarily like straight up combative calls, so I guess we'll just take them in order. Let's talk to Natalie, her in Pennsylvania, who says, how do I deal with a transphobic relative who still loves and cares for me in other ways? So, Natalie, you are live on the line with Arden and Lux. What's going on? Talk to us.
Hi. So I just want to start off by saying I'm incredibly anxious right now. So if I stutter at
Okay.
all, that's why. But so I've been transitioning for the past 4 years. And my grandfather, who is the relative I mentioned in my question, has not quite likened it, or is not quite liking it, I should say. Um, he hasn't like thrown me out of the house yet. He hasn't called me any slurs, but he just refuses to give me basic respect, like calling me Natalie or using she, her, still uses my dead name. He even went to my name change hearing like 2 weeks ago and he saw the judge um, certify my name change. And I asked him afterwards, like, are you going to call me Natalie? And he said, I'll think about it. And it really hurts. It just, because he loves me in other ways. He takes care of me, but just, he I don't know how else to put it.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I'm really sorry you're going through that. Just for clarity, did you say this was your father or a partner or a friend? Who is this individual to you?
My grandfather.
Your grandfather. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of trans people can relate to this. I mean, I know, my dad would tell you he loves me, even though I would contest that. I think a lot of trans people have the same experience where their parents, do, I think, love you in principle, and they don't want to see you necessarily suffer, but they're unwilling to contend with the fact that failing to gender you correctly is causing you suffering. And that's, also bad. I'll pass it off to Lex here in just a second, because I'm probably not the best person to answer this, because genuinely I don't I I don't know. It's always been a thing in my brain where I have a very, like, to me, that's just not love. If you can do that to somebody, that's fails to be love at that point in my mind. Like, that doesn't feel like love to me. I don't feel loved by a person who does that. And so it's really hard for me to accept when somebody does something like that and then says, I love you. I'm like, I feel like you're lying to me. Like, that feels like almost like gaslighting or something. Like, you're saying one thing and then doing something completely different. Like, it's so hypocritical. So I have a hard time accepting that in my personal life. And it's the reason I am currently no contact again with that side of my family. So yeah, I don't know, Lex, do you have some advice that isn't fuck that, they're not your family anymore? Or maybe it's the same, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we are somewhat similar on this. I mean, I think it's worth taking the time to explain, like, this is what loving me is, or respect, or like whatever framework an older family member is able to take it in. And maybe you could, like, if there is something in their purview that might make it kind of make more sense to them, like if it's military and you're like, well, okay, do you, like, are you okay with people like not respecting your military rank? Or if if your nickname is, I don't know, Jimmy, and everybody's calling you James, then is that not a form of disrespect? Do you really feel loved if someone is ignoring that about you? I think it's worth trying to explain in that language of being like, hey, if you want me to feel loved and supported, this is how you do it. Because when you do this, I do not interpret that as love. I interpret that as like disrespect. Um, and then, it's your mileage varies at that point of like how much you're gonna, like, how many times are you gonna explain that to someone, or how many chances are you gonna give someone to kind of come around on that? And are you gonna have to put boundaries down? Like, at first, it should come as like, here's my explanation, and couch it in the form of like a request. Like, I'm asking you, if you can't do this, then at least do this. Or, you create like a situation where you can find like a medium between your two positions. And then if it continues, and if it continues to be caustic to your relationship, then you go like, okay, I want to have a relationship with you, but you're making it hard for me by doing this thing that I don't like. And so from now on, if you do this thing that I don't like, then I am going to restrict the relationship. I cannot be around you and have a healthy relationship if you are going to treat me this way. And that's kind of like the therapy version of how to approach this issue. But whatever the boundary is that you set, when it evolves from a request to a boundary where you say, if you do this, then I will do this. It has to be something you're willing to follow through on and enforce, or the message is going to get lost. If you let someone mistreat you, then they're going to keep doing it. So you have to be like, look, I come over every Saturday right now, but if you keep doing this, then I'm only going to come over once a month just to check on you, or something, whatever works for your particular situation.
How does that all land
Um,
with you, Natalie?
I mean, I like that idea because he is one of those don't tread on me kind of people. So maybe I could get him with like, well, part of my rights are being impeded by you not respecting me. Maybe something like that. Um, but I don't know if he's going to go for that because I've talked to him a few times. Me and my mom have talked to him a few times. My mom's very supportive, um, and he won't get it. And it's been 4 years, and I think
Mm.
I'm either close to just giving up entirely and just, like waiting until there's a point where I don't have to see him in my life again, because as it is, like he is in my life constantly. Um,
Mm.
or just straight up, like whenever he calls me by my dead name or uses the wrong pronouns, I just don't respond to him, because I feel like,
Yeah.
because you're not talking to me, you're talking to a version of me that hasn't existed in 5 years.
I would say make whatever it is that you decide to do, make that expectation clear to him. If you're like, "Listen, I really don't like it when you call me by this name that I don't go by anymore. So if you do, I'm going to leave, or I'm going to end the conversation, or I'm not going to respond." Like, that's part of your end of the deal when you're communicating a boundary, is like, make sure it's totally clear what is going to happen. And be like, "Look, I'm not trying to control you. I'm not trying to force you. I'm not trying to compel your speech or anything. These are the conditions for me at which I can have a relationship with you. So if you want a relationship with me, then this has to be how it goes. And if not, then I am going to choose not to interact with you. I will leave the room. I will go home, or whatever, whatever works for your boundaries or whatever. Like, I don't know if you live this person, or if you like see them every time you go visit your mom or something like that. But you have to like make it totally clear. I am responding in this way because of what you have done. And if you don't want me to respond this way, then you need to change the way that you approach me. And it will possibly be the case that that person chooses to continue treating you that way instead of having a relationship with you. And at that point, you just have to say, "Well, that was on you. I gave you all of the information that you needed to have a relationship with me. And if you won't, then I'm not interested."
Yeah, I think that's for sure something I would want to communicate with him, because if I just do it out of nowhere, I think that's, I mean, it's not effective, but it's also disrespectful, I think, in a way. But yeah, I do want to set those boundaries very clearly for him.
I don't think it's necessarily disrespect. I can understand why he might think it's disrespectful, but I do think it's fair to give him like an adjustment period. You can be like, "Hey, listen, like, I appreciate that you haven't really been putting in an effort, so this is going to be a hard adjustment for you, but I am now giving you like a timeline. Like, you have a month to start adjusting to respect this boundary, where I will give you leeway for mistakes, and now that's totally fine. Mistakes don't ever have to be a problem, but if you refuse to even make an effort after this time period, then these boundaries are going to sort of take effect." And, that can be like a good way to also prep him. I do like the angle of kind of the like, this is not compelled speech. You can really get into that "don't tread on me" energy with like, you have the right to be disrespectful to me, but you don't have the right to be disrespectful to me and maintain contact with me against my will. Um, so yeah, I think it's hard. I never want to advise someone to cut off their family, right? Like that's never a good feeling. Humans are like biologically wired to want the love and affection and approval of our family, and it's difficult to go no contact with someone who you love, who's involved in your life. It's not a good experience, and so I don't ever want to like encourage people to do it, but also I do think that setting that boundary, not allowing someone to disrespect you, going like a year into a life where you've set that kind of boundary, you come out on the other side having more respect for yourself, knowing that you're like, "Oh wow, like my life is so much better not having people in it who disrespect me." And that can make you feel so much like stronger and more confident about your position. And that can even make it easier for you to like then reintroduce the relationship in the future and be like, it doesn't like no contact doesn't have to mean no contact forever. Like that can be like until you feel like you have like the tools and the emotional capacity to like cope with his persistent disrespect, that you're not going to have that relationship. And you'll be like, maybe in a year's time after I've like gone to some therapy or something, we can like try to reintroduce this relationship, but not right now while you talk to me this way.
Yeah, I think I want to try that. I want to try putting that, I guess, no, like time limit, for
Mhm.
the, I have no idea what to call it. Uh, I guess the method of hopefully trying to get him to respect me. Um, I'm not sure
Yeah,
what else
it's
to
not always
say.
easy. It's not always easy. And it's like, I mean, it's already not easy right now. So making those extra steps to say like, I'm going to protect my space, I'm going to protect my peace. If I feel disrespected, I do not want to be in that space. Like that is hard, but I just want to say like it's probably not as hard as just trying to like push through it and keep the peace for everybody else's sake. You know, we've got plenty of examples of people's grandparents starting out not understanding anything about trans people and then ending up figuring it out. And we also have plenty of examples of people's grandparents who never figure it out and they die while they're in the middle of their "I don't ever want to talk to you again" phase, where they're the one doing the active rejection. Um, so yeah, it's not easy, and I commend you for like trying because, like I said, like Arden and I, we don't fuck with this. We're like, no, I'm not interested. I don't want to try to convince you as you go further and further into your little weird Fox News hole. Just
Yep.
not worth the time for me. I don't have that close of a relationship with any of my family members. That's like, I'll drop you. Just don't even play. I don't even want to have a conversation about how like if you want to have a relationship with me, like that's not me. I don't give a shit. Um, so I hope that I have helped at least somewhat give like the rational middle ground, not the advice that I would actually do, but it's like do as I say, not as I do kind of moment.
Yep.
Oh yeah, thank you very, very much. I do appreciate both of your advice and help.
Yeah, and best of luck to you, Natalie. None of this is easy. It's never easy to be in a situation where you feel like you have to consider cutting a family member who you love out of your life. So like you definitely have our like deep sympathies and empathy on what you're going through because that is it sucks. It really sucks that any family member would pick their own ego and this stupid like flawed thing of like, well, it's my principle that I don't accept this over just loving your family member. That's shitty and that we shouldn't live in that world, but we do. And so, you know, you have to make the decisions that are right for you. So best of luck with it.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. We will talk to you later, Natalie. Thanks for calling in.
Bye.
Bye. Yeah, definitely do as we say, not as we do. I recently got a message from one of my family members who I've cut off saying about how they love and miss me and my partner and hope that we're well. And I rarely get mad or mean. I usually am like, here's the situation, accept it or go away is kind of how I laid out. But this was the one time that I was like, how fucking disrespectful in a world where y'all are in support of Donald Trump to come at me and tell me you wish that I'm well and that my life is good. Like, you just spit in my food and told me bon appetit. Like, that is so fucked up on a level you don't even understand and that you won't refuse to engage with. Yeah, that is I just have no cool for that stuff. I'm like, oh man, you just totally like cross a line. That is so insane. Ooh, Beastie Vagoon. Transness is not meaningfully distinguishable from any other metaphysical claim. Call in. Call in with that take. Oh, you're muted, Lux.
Right. There's loud shit happening outside.
No worries.
Yeah, we need some oppositional callers. So make sure, like I've seen several people in the chat. We don't really interact with the chat during the stream. We do super chat responses at the end. But if you want to ask us a question, then please call in and like we will potentially even give priority to people who are calling in with an oppositional call, an argument. If you want to challenge us on something, that's what this show is really for. That's what we want. So please take your comments into the call queue.
Yeah, no, for real. I would love to take that call. That is a topic that I find particularly interesting. So, all right, let's talk to you next. B in Virginia, pronouns he, him, wants to talk about trans rap in video games and what a trans wants in a character creator that a cis person would not. So I kind of get the general gist of the question, but why don't you explain it a little bit more for us, B? You are live with Arden and Lux.
Hi. Yeah. I honestly cannot understand why somebody would not make what can best be described as their ideal self. not necessarily a perfect self, but like this is what I'm like a big masculine buff man or somebody that I wish I could be. And yeah, I'm a cis man, so I'll make a masculine figure. And if somebody is, I believe it's trans masculine, is the right word, why wouldn't they also want to be able to make a mask figure just like me? What is it they want to make that's representing their trans form that isn't also representing some cis form? Does that make any more sense?
Kind of,
Go.
yeah. I mean, so I would say like something that I've seen in some character creation is like top surgery scars.
I've
So
seen those.
you know, if yeah, and like you've got games like what is like Cyberpunk, the game where you have like a slider for how big your genitals are. I
Mm-hmm.
feel like that's getting a little bit silly. We're getting to a place where it's like, what
Yeah.
is the point of that really? Um, but yeah, I think, and I've seen some character creators also that have a basically a torso that's like a breast binder, like where the character has like a smushed breasts instead of like top surgery scars. I think that you get into like a lot of the weeds of this, and like a lot of the like, OMG, this is so woke, comes from wanting body types that are non-normative, like you know, I know one person was saying like, I don't like that when I choose the female character, the maximum height is much shorter. So I can't actually make a version of
Mm.
me because I'm really tall, but I would have to choose the male body type in order to have like an accurate height. And then there's also stuff like fat people. Are they allowed to exist in the game? And
Mhm.
you know, are other uh, things being included like uh I don't know, like can the character hold one of those canes that blind people use or whatever? Like I don't know. Uh there's you kind of get into a place where it's like character customization. You can make it to where you basically can have every possible configuration. Uh but it's like what is going to work for everybody? Like okay, for everybody, if you have like a slider for height that is disengaged from the gender, or if the voice can be disengaged from the gender, because I know that people were complaining about that with Cyberpunk, that like if you choose the female body type, they are going to use female pronouns and the female voice, whereas it would be kind of cool to be able to split those up, like have
Mhm.
pronouns set separately and have the voice set separately. And it's fairly easy to do that, I think, in some situations, but you know, we're putting a lot of demands on the game developers at a certain point. So it's like, yeah, there are some things that trans people might want that cis people might not want, but there's also ways to do this that could pretty much satisfy everybody's needs.
Yeah, I also don't know necessarily that every like time I do a character creation, I'm creating my ideal self per se. Like I think a lot
Mhm.
of times I just am kind of like, what's capable in this game that's not capable in other games? Like I just kind of want to have fun, and sometimes that means, I might make a character who's got like blue skin and white hair and antenna, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that's like a part of my ideal self. That's just like I'm like, oh, that looks cool, and I want to try it out. Um, now, being
Terrestrial
said,
Arden.
maybe there's a little part of me that thinks it'd be cool to be able to flick on blue skin and antenna, but like I don't necessarily want that in my life long term. So, yeah,
Mhm.
what are your thoughts on all that,
Maybe
B?
maybe the term ideal self is being not properly expressed. I'm not saying you necessarily want to be a blue-skinned alien with antenna. That's part of your identity, but that is the ideal form you want to role play as in this world. As for the top scars and I think, yes, I have no doubt that a trans mask person would have top scars. I just honestly don't understand why someone would want to have that on their character any more than I would want to have my visual defects caused by accidents reflecting a character. But at the end of the day, it's their character, not mine. I'm left baffled as to why. As for, I want to go around cyberpunk as a femme presenting person with gigantic breasts, but people call me he. That is again something I just don't understand. It seems like it caused gender dysphoria.
I mean,
But again,
I just don't think games are that serious, you know? Like, I mean, the second I could pick playing a girl in Pokemon, I did, but I also played games where I picked them as a boy, and I don't think that was me, like, secretly confessing that I'm not really trans and I was playing a boy because that was on some level some, like, idealized version of, like, something that I wanted to be, or, you know, like, I don't know. I just don't think it's all
yeah,
that serious.
you mentioned cyberpunk. I played cyberpunk as a female and a male just to see if that's any different. Yes, it's not some big deal. It just, I think worrying about whether the carriage critter allows top surgery scars is equally, you're taking it too seriously.
Well, I would say that people are like wanting to. Okay, so if a game has a ton of customized options, then
Hmm.
we tend to start going like, well, if you have a nose slider for how big the nose is, why is there not a slider for my voice Adam's apple? Like, why can't there also be that? And if you have a game like Baldur's Gate 3 where you like your character gets naked and has sex with people,
Yeah.
then if you want to have a self-insert character, then I completely understand that. And I also want to say that like trans men top surgery scars are not most people don't really feel that that's a defect. A lot of the time people are like, I love this part of my body. This is my battle scars. This shows that I
Mm,
achieved something that I really wanted. I went through something. And a lot of games have options to put scars on your body, like on your face. Like if
yep.
you play a game that is a battle game, then, you know, a scar on the character's face could indicate like part of their backstory. So yeah, I would say most of the time trans people aren't like, OMG, let's boycott this game because it didn't give me a slider to make my dick bigger or whatever. It's like if you're gonna do these things and have all this amazing customization, then is it not just kind of part of the game to like include other types of customization? And then yeah, it's just like, what do the developers think is important? What kind of people do you want to be able to envision themselves in this game? And that conversation has been ongoing for a long time, even with if we just look at like having female options in the game.
Yes.
Like, do we want women to feel like they can be in the game? Like, yes, I think that we do want that. So it's just like how far do we want to stretch that? How how extreme can we go? It's almost fun to me to be like, how many different things could we include on this?
Why
Yeah.
does the non-binary option always have to be non-human type thing? Yes, I'm
Fucking
aware.
true. True, B. I was just talking about that with someone I know who's non-binary. Like, why is it that you have to only non-binary rep is either an alien or a robot? Can we address this?
Okay.
All right, we're gonna
Thank you
move
for
on, B, but
I,
thanks for calling. We appreciate it.
bye.
Bye-bye.
Later.
All right. So there's a few trolls in the chat, which is funny because just before the show, I was talking how we don't get as many trolls these days.
Yeah.
One of them shit talking top scars, stupid. The other one is a part of a phenomenon that I just find so funny, which is so many homophobic people love to speculate about the sex that Matt and I have and ask questions
Mhm.
about it. And I'm just like, how much time in your life do you think about the kind of sex that my partner and I have? Because that is so fucking weird, first of all. And also seems to go against your whole homophobia thing that you're trying to do here. So it's really funny. I mean, I don't know. You got some damage there. I don't know what that is, but I would talk to a therapist if I was you. All right.
Yeah.
We're gonna check out these poll results. So the poll question reminder was, should the results of an autism screening have an impact on access to gender affirming care? And despite rewording this specifically to avoid this problem, I already saw multiple chats of people being like, Well, it could potentially accelerate the timeline of gender affirming care. And so I said yes.
You live in a fantasy world.
Yeah, you live in a complete fucking fiction. The reason we asked this question is because in the UK, they just recently, with their new guidance following that Supreme Court ruling, decided that kids who are presenting with or kids who are presenting for gender dysphoria have to get screened for autism and ADHD before as well to make sure that those symptoms aren't coming from the autism and ADHD. Fact for which they have no evidence that any of those traits come from autism or ADHD. This is just trying to infantilize neurodivergent people to try to suggest that they couldn't possibly have the ability to assess their own internal state and sincerely determine that they might have a gender different from the one assigned at birth. So we have to protect them. But really what they're doing is making the lives of autistic people and trans people worse while they're doing it. And then there's concerns that with RFK Jr. putting together a database, a list of autistic people in the US, that something similar might be happening here. So
yeah, and we're throwing together our own little version of the CAS review.
Yeah, right. Which is probably going to be full of similar problems. I'm hoping that some of our institutions will push back on it because I know the Yale review, or like the Yale response to the CAS review, is really thorough. And I hope that we see something like that. But that they're going to fix the results to come out with something that specifically suggests everything that they want it to about trans rights. And even if they get one study out like that, it's not going to overturn the body of evidence for trans care, right? This is just going to be them being like, well, the evidence isn't good enough, again, like the CAS review, where they don't have any demonstration of harm. They can't actually point to anything wrong with it. All they just do is go, well, we don't know about something really bad could happen. And so we can't let our kids do this, which is such a ridiculous standard of evidence to have. It makes me so fucking viscerally angry. But sorry, I know this is your poll question and I just angry ranted. So go ahead.
No, it's fine. Yeah, I mean, basically, yeah, I think that what is happening, and this has been brought up numerous times over the last 6 or 7 years, like, especially when it regards the infantilization of transmasculine individuals, where it's this like, oh my God, there's this epidemic of young autistic women deciding to cut off their perfectly healthy breasts and everything. And it seems like, yeah, what the motivation seems to be is we don't want autistic people to transition. And like, we're infantilizing autistic people on top of everything to go like, yeah, you don't need access. And some people will go like, oh, what if the person's nonverbal? Like, well, I have seen a nonverbal person express exuberant enthusiasm over having gotten a top surgery successfully.
Yep.
So they are capable of communicating what they want. And yeah, it is interesting that it seems like a large number of trans people are autistic, but we should be like openly curious about why that might be. I have my theories as to why that is, rather than being like, oh my God, that's a scary connection. Oh my God, autistic people can't decide things for themselves. Oh my God, we have to protect autistic people from the evil trans lobby is kind of where this seems to be coming from. So for everybody who's like, why are you conflating these things? What do these things have anything to do with each other? Fucking great question. We don't know except that they are trying to cut down on trans rights. Like they're trying to find excuses to cut back on trans rights. They're like, your brain's not even fully developed until you're 25, which means that we shouldn't let fully grown adults of 7 years make those decisions for themselves. Meanwhile, 16-year-olds can get boob jobs with mommy's permission. Yeah, it's it's pretty irritating. Like I think the short version.
I've always said if you apply this kind of standard evenly across the board, I really have no objection to you like taking problems with like the ways that healthcare works and the consent, how we get consent in healthcare and stuff like that. Like I probably would disagree with a lot of the objections in that realm, but at least you could be like ideologically consistent. But universally, without fail, and I feel comfortable saying this, the people who hold positions like this do not hold them equally or universally in their life. There are categories of things that they apply the standard to, like trans people, which is definitionally a bias, an anti-trans bias that you have, that is transphobia. Your feelings and beliefs on this matter are informed by your prejudice that you have about trans people and autistic people. It's so infuriating. I mean, like, I worked with a bunch of nonverbal autistic people right out of college for a really long time, and they had no problem communicating. They couldn't communicate the exact same ways, but they all had different methods that we had found that they were able to communicate to us with. And it's really ridiculous to think that, like, it's hard to even express. Like, they have this like nebulous blob in their mind that is like what the autistic person is, that has no feelings or no thoughts about anything, no opinions or preferences. And it's like, those are a whole entire people there, right? Like, when you look at someone like, is it like Helen Keller, right? Who was deaf and blind. Right. But is able to like still communicate. Like, there are nonverbal autistic people who have written. Oh, I didn't know that. There are nonverbal autistic people who've written entire books. Like, these people have a full entire person in their body, and like, to take that away from them because they don't communicate the way that you do is so fucking disgusting. And under the guise of helping them, like, genuinely shame on every person who holds that position. Like, I have nothing but disrespect and loathing for this whole category of people. Let's see what our audience said, because I was already kind of grossed out when I saw the numbers earlier. It's like 90%.
I also just want to assert that people keep saying that this is like, oh, autistic people are subject to cultural trends. No, we're not. No, we're not. Like, autistic people are the most resistant to social pressure and trends. We don't give a shit. Like, in fact, if anything, that's why we come out as trans more often, because we experience gender dysphoria, maybe not even more than the general population, but we just are more likely to do something about it because we don't give a shit about following the rules. Like, I wonder how many neurotypical people there are who are like, oh, I feel this way, but I can't because of social confinement. Like, yeah,
right.
Autistic people are not like uniquely vulnerable to social pressure forcing them to transition or whatever. It's stupid. But yeah, what is it, like 91-8?
Yeah, it was like or I didn't end it. It's 90-10. And I know like half of those 10% or 90-9%, I guess. That's weird. That it's gotta be like 90.9 to 99.9 or whatever. But I know that like half of that is people who said yes, did so because there's some contingency of our audience who wants to think like, I don't know, that there's some, like you were saying at the beginning, some fictional world where the diagnosis of autism could accelerate but like, we're talking about the real world that we actually live in today. I saw someone be like, oh, if it's a something. And I'm like, yeah, if, well, the question doesn't say if any of that. The question fucking talks about the world today. So, man, I'm angry today. I feel so sorry for the caller who crosses me. No, that's all right. But that was our poll. If you didn't get to participate while it was up in chat, you can go participate on the community tab. I'm also closing the lines because I got to be out of here before 5 my time. So that should be enough time to get through all these calls and stuff. But I am going to close the lines now. Another reminder, we are going to read super chats at the end, though. So any super chat of $5 or more, we will read out live. And if you have hashtag Team Arden or hashtag Team Lux, you can make one of us defend a silly, ridiculous position. I don't have those sorted out, but we'll get them put up here shortly. Let's see. Who do we have on our list? Okay. There's a few that are... The bottom 3 all sound actually pretty interesting to me. Do you have a preference on either of those?
No, not really. I just want to make sure we get oppositional callers in. If we end up like sidelining some friendly callers, I'm sorry if that happens, but you know, we want to fight people. So
yeah, especially when it comes to a lot of personal advice, that's really hard for us to really help you all with. So I want to talk to Alba, her, who's just in the USA, says she wants to discuss the merits of faith in the trans experience. They're not super oppositional on the trans rights issue per se, but kind of wants to tie it into a more spiritual experience. So I think this could be a really interesting conversation. Alba, you are live with Arden and Lux. Go ahead, give it to us. What do you want to talk about?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, so
Oh.
at any point,
Okay.
so if I go robot, just like let me know and I'll just stop and it goes away after a minute. Not even a minute, like 10 seconds, maybe 5 seconds.
You went robot a little for a second while you
Um,
were explaining that there. So we got it.
oh,
Live experience. No, you're good now though, but go for it. Go give us your topic.
okay. Or yeah, if it's use my phone. So basically, I have my own personal experience of faith that is not a faith that we all have. And what I mean by that is there's non-religious faith that we have. You have faith that, or you just know when you drop a baseball, it's going to hit the ground because gravity. We all have whatever you want to call that faith. But I've developed over the years a faith different than that, more akin of a religious faith. And it's very heretical. I'm not orthodox. And it coincides with kind of my second phase of transition, but also my first phase of transition. And I guess with everyone on the outside of our community, let me rephrase that. With so many religious bigots on the outside of our community, I look to be an internal source of kind of like fighting fire with fire, faith with faith. And I'm wondering just what you think about that and if you have any pushbacks against that or what you think I should think about more. Yeah, that's that's where I'm coming from, and I kind of just want to go step by step and have y'all question me, and I'll answer the questions, I guess.
So if I can just kind of summarize so I know where we're coming from, because
Yes.
I'm not
Mhm.
completely sure I understood, so I just want to repeat it back to you. You're basically asking our thoughts on like sort of religious or trans people who have some sort of faith belief,
Mhm.
kind of operating within the trans activist movement. Like, are you asking like if we think that y'all have a place in the trans activist movement? Is that the question you're asking?
Yeah,
Okay. So
it's okay. And brother's an atheist.
sure.
I was raised an atheist.
So I'm going to put aside like addressing the faith itself for a minute, because I do want to say, first of all, that like, well, I might consider myself maybe something of like a bit of an anti-theist. I generally think that believing things for bad reasons is almost always harmful and that I would like it to stop unilaterally. I will say I'm not under any delusion that I'm going to snap my fingers and convince everyone to be an atheist tomorrow or a skeptic tomorrow, which is probably more important. And so absolutely, at the time and place we're in, I would much rather have like, sorry, I'm trying to say this in the right order because I'm going to get lost in my own thoughts. Like I would say that the progressive Christians who are trans and queer, I think they are so pretty detached from the actual obvious implied reading of the text of the Bible in many cases. And I think they're on way like weaker ground to defend their faith from like an actual like pointing to the Bible position. However, I will take a million of them over one Christian nationalist evangelical any day of the week. And I absolutely think that right now, as we are in a really horrifying fight against Christian nationalism, we definitely need trans people and queer people of all faith positions to be joined in the push against Christian nationalism, in my opinion. I definitely think there's plenty of room for allyship over our joint goals, over people from different faith backgrounds right now. Now, I will say, if you were to call in and ask what my specific thoughts on your faith were, I would probably give a less kumbaya answer to you, because I, again, would consider myself probably pretty much an anti-theist. But that being said, yeah, we don't live in that world. And so, like, absolutely, you have a place in the trans advocacy movement. Like, being trans is all it takes, as far as I'm concerned, to have a place. Well, at least also to share our goals, of what we're asking for. Because there's people like Blair White who are trans but don't share our goals at all, and that's not somebody who I'd really consider like welcome in like the advocacy movement, as far as I'm concerned. But Felix, do you have any different thoughts on that?
Yeah, I guess I want to gently push back initially on the idea that my confidence in gravity is anything like faith. Faith
Sure.
involves belief in something that you don't have a shit ton of evidence for. Like my confidence in that is, I don't think it's the same. But speaking to like a religious faith, maybe this is like a perspective difference because you come from an atheist family. But
Mhm.
my experience in the trans community and in the queer community is that I am marginalized for being an atheist and for being anti-theist. And we've even seen it
Mm.
just recently on Blue Sky. This, atheist trans activist Zinnia Jones got like a shit ton of pushback for just her basically just saying normal anti-theist stuff. And so it
Mhm.
feels to me like in order to work toward shared goals as queer people, as trans people, that I don't get to bring that to the table. It's like in this context, people of faith are still the dominant group. Trans people of faith are still the like majority. So I mean like it just feels almost silly to me to be like, I'm Christian. Do I belong? It's like you're the people who are the reason why I can't talk about my beliefs. Like I'm an atheist and a skeptic before I'm any of these other things. That's for me, like at the
Mhm.
core of my belief structure and my beliefs about what what we should do as trans people would change if the evidence were different, right? But I believe what I believe because I'm a skeptic first and foremost. So yeah, I mean,
Mhm.
it's like, yeah, of course you have a place in the trans community. Like you are like almost like the desired example of a trans person is like somebody who's still shares Christianity in common with normal people, you know?
Um, I want to push back on your pushback. I agree um, that there is this bubbling of trans Christians, or I do think it's interesting that there's not many trans Muslims. There's definitely trans um, Jewish people, but I don't necessarily see myself with those trans Christians in the same way. Um, and I can get into that if you want, but I would just want to say about the gravity thing. Faith in humanity going out there is like my faith in the monad, in this unknowable creation that we live in. Um, mirrors maybe your faith in humanity. I hope you have faith in humanity. If not, that's fine.
But you see, I think this is the frustrating thing though, Albert. You keep conflating different uses of faith. Like faith
Okay,
in
okay.
faith has multiple uses, right? Like faith can just mean confidence, and that's what Lux was kind of talking about. Like when you're saying
Mhm.
faith in gravity or faith in humanity, like I have confidence from lots of experience that when I bounce the ball, it'll come back up to me due to physics. And I have lots of faith in humanity because I have lots of experiences with good people and I tend to subscribe to humanism and I value human well-being so much. But to me,
Yeah.
that is very, very different from the claim of faith in some unknowable creator God. That is a claim for which you have no evidence to support it. I have evidence of the goodness of humans. I have evidence of gravity. And that's not just faith. That is faith only in the colloquial use of conflating it with confidence. Faith, as you're using it for this God entity, is a completely different ball game. So, I was kind of trying to stay out of that a little bit, mostly because
Mhm.
I do think it's important to talk about interfaith allyships as we combat Christian nationalism. Um, and I'm definitely happy to work side by side with people who have the shared goals of me. Like when human rights are secured, let's debate each other's religion all day long. I'm happy to tear each other apart, even if you are also progressive. Like we can have at it when we have human
Mhm.
rights secured in law. But yeah, I mean, if you're gonna, it is super dishonest to compare the faith in humanity or a faith in gravity to a faith in, as you described, an unknowable creator.
Yes. I will concede that.
I guess where I'm coming from is I don't see myself with those trans Christians who go to church because I don't go to church. I get one thing I just want to say, and again, I know that's personal experience, so it doesn't mean anything except what it means to me. But the amount of synchronicities when I considered myself agnostic, and at points in my life atheist, how my life has manifested itself has made me believe what I believe. And most people, I don't talk about it. I don't go to church. I don't read the Bible. I don't try and argue that the Bible says good things besides this part about taxing, or when Jesus flips over the people who tax, and there you can cherry pick, but overall I think it's not good, and a lot of religion isn't good. And that's where I come from. Is I guess maybe I'm still an agnostic who wants to call herself more than that because of my synchronicities. And I kind of just want to end this call because you have more important things to talk about. And I'll just end it with what you said, Arden, about how it's more important that we come together, that it's awesome if there is someone still fighting the good fight and not like a Blair White, and they're fighting for the rights of all trans people, all non-binary people, all queer people, all marginalized people. That's more important than their belief in God, Allah, Shiva. List goes on.
Sure, but don't get it twisted though. Like I do think believing in things without good reason, believing in a God that you defined as unknowable, which I don't know how you can have any belief in something that you're defining as unknowable. Like that just doesn't make any sense. It's an incoherent
I don't know either.
Concept. Well,
I had to live through my synchronicities. I don't know how to say it, Arden. I didn't want to believe in God. I argued with my 5th grade teacher about God. I was a Reddit atheist, basically, in real life for most of my life. I grew up caring about Star Trek and shit, not God. And I said God was not real. Jesus wasn't real. And I still don't know how to navigate these things except just live well.
Well, I just want to offer one thing. Is it statistically more likely that your brain did something fucked up, or that the fundamental facts about the universe include an unknowable creator? Like, it's like the question about ghosts. Is it more likely that you hallucinated for a second, or is it more likely that there's an afterlife and people have souls and they imprint on places and remain after they die? Like, it's like the Occam's razor. Like, the number of things that have to be true about the universe is like a huge amount versus like the very small amount of evidence that your brain just kind of did something. That's where I argue against like the personal experience thing. It's like, does your personal experience actually, is that evidence about how the universe works? Or if it makes you feel better, then I don't give a shit. Like, that's fine, I guess. I still think that it's ideal to not believe in things just because you hallucinated them. But like, if it makes you a better person or something, I don't know, like, I guess that's a good thing.
Yeah, I encourage you all to call in to either the Hang Up or one of the Sunday shows. They'd be happy to pull apart like the actual contents of your belief a little bit. Well, I'm happy to do that. We do have some callers on the line that specifically want to talk about trans stuff, so I do that is my priority on this show always.
Yeah,
but just as to the question
can I say one thing, Deluxe?
Go for it.
Because it asks me about what's more likely. And the truth is, I don't know. Spooky action at a distance, the fact that particles across the universe can know each other, right? Know each other's position, and
I don't think you need to.
I'm not.
Particles interacting across the universe has nothing to like. You don't need any information to know that hallucinations are more common than ghosts existing. That is something you can know with literally any basic interaction with the world and have more confidence in. But with that, Alba, I appreciate you calling in. Absolutely, interfaith alliances are important going forward, but yeah, don't get it twisted. I have massive problems with even progressive Christians and people who are in your position, but you're a good ally for the political fight. So right on. Well, that's because I'm perfect. So thank you, Alba. I'll talk to you later. Bye.
I'm more perfect.
Yeah, it's.
I don't get to do that very often anymore. It's surprising how much I get really mad really fast.
Honestly, if I had known that was the direction the call was going to go, I would have saved her for last, because then we would have had more time to kind of get into it. I just didn't want the other callers to drop in the meantime. But it's I don't like I like talking about that stuff. I just, when I'm like, oh, but there's callers who want to actually talk about specifically trans stuff, and we're just kind of evaluating your really esoteric deistic belief. Just not the time or place, you know. But it is fun.
Yeah, it is.
It's frustrating because I do like. I know Promise on the line. One of her good friends is a progressive Christian who is like married to a non-binary person. And they wrote this book called, like, I think it's Star Spangled Jesus or something like that. Just basically talking about kind of the problems of Christian nationalism. And like, I'm so happy to work in coalition with like believers. But I will say I've noticed this also in trans spaces where, but it's also just, generally speaking, queer spaces are very full of woo. There's a lot of people who are into astrology and that kind of stuff, and a lot of like vibes based things, which I don't really love. And it's frustrating that the anti-theist position there is considered so evil. And I'm like, hey, listen, my priorities are straight. Like, I'm not coming after y'all until the Christian nationalist dragon has been slain. Like, once we're done with that, we can battle till the cows come home. Just like I always say, like, you know, like with trans rights stuff, there's some trans experiences that I don't completely understand. And when we have trans rights secured in law and I have no stress about my rights going away, let's debate every neo pronoun option, like, or like, you know, xenogenders or whatever. Let's do that. Great. But right now, we're all unilaterally so under threat. It's like, it serves absolutely no one to be spending time on those conversations. And so I would really rather be like, let's join together and fight in solidarity, because that matters more than anything.
Yeah, I just find it really frustrating that I feel like I have to choose between two different things. Either I'm active in the atheist community where people fucking use their brains, but I also have to deal with like transphobia, or I can be active in the trans community and the queer community and keep my beliefs to myself. Like, that it's like, it is important to me. It is an important part of who I am. And it sucks that like, it's like, that's something that I have to stay in the closet about. So, and like for a person of faith to be like, well, you know, I feel marginalized. Like, no, the fuck you aren't. That's really offensive to me. As like, I've had like arguments through the years and even quite recently where it's made explicitly clear that like the way that religious people feel when you challenge them on their beliefs, and like the fact that you can't criticize their beliefs without it being a criticism of them as a human being, like that is still present. And, and it is like the one thing that I basically am not allowed to talk about if I want to still be accepted. So like for me, I feel deeply marginalized as an atheist and as an anti-theist, even within these spaces where I'm like, if I want my pronouns to be honored, then I have to be over here with this group of people. And like, it just feels like there's tension there that there shouldn't be.
Totally. It's, I often feel like I can't fake it, right? Like, I've had so many times where queer people have been like, ooh, like, what's your sign? Or like, they'll start talking like crystals or something like that. And I can't lie or fake it. I don't have it in me on those kinds of issues. And so I'm always just have to be uncomfortably like, I don't know, I'm not really into that stuff. I really don't even want to like get into it, if that's okay. And then I feel like I'm being like the party pooper, like I'm ruining everyone else's experience because I don't believe in this unprovable thing that you have about the stars. Like, I'm sorry, you're the one who's doing functionally the equivalent of what church do you go to? I didn't realize that I was the bad guy here. Like, what the fuck? Also, somebody
Yeah.
called Noah L in chat said the line, people tried to destroy Christianity for thousands of years. Good luck. This is a perfect example of what you were just talking about, because we literally went out of our way to say, oh, we're not going to be able to snap our fingers and destroy Christianity. And I don't want to do that, but I do want to drag Christianity kicking and screaming into a progressive future. Like,
Yeah.
you're not watching this stream, but you're commenting on it. And it's really weird. I don't understand.
Quite
People just hear what
interesting.
they want to hear. Okay, we've got
Yeah.
more callers. Let's get to, how about we do David? This sounds like it could be an interesting call. David, him in California, has questions about the term transgender and how it seems to encompass people. Well, you know what? I'll let David talk about it. David, you are, oh, there we go. David, you are live on Transatlantic with Arden Lux. Tell us about your topic. What do you want to get into?
Hi, thanks for having me. So I want to become better informed on this topic. I was a fundamentalist Christian for a very long time, and I'm trying to get reoriented now. I've watched several videos explaining the modern understanding of being transgender, including the Sex and Sensibility video by Forrest Balkai. There's one by Dave Farina. There's one by Rationality Rules. I think I have a good understanding of the difference between sex and gender and why neither one is binary. But it seems to me that today the most visible subset of transgender people, whether this is just a cultural thing or whatever, are those who use like hormones and surgery in order to change their body in a way that seems to be more associated, in my mind, with sex rather than gender. My understanding is that gender is referring more to like social conventions of masculinity and femininity related to behavior and presentation. So I understand like the term transsexual is no longer preferred today, but could you help me understand why do we use a term like transgender when we're talking about things that I think are more associated with sex rather than gender?
This is an awesome question. I love this. Yeah, so this is interesting because I have often said that I do think that what trans people are doing is more functionally described as changing sex than changing their gender. I think arguably you could say that no trans person ever changes their gender, and that some people have gender that's a little bit more fluid or dynamic, but generally speaking, like my gender was stable the entire time. It was my phenotype that changed across the board. But the problem is that, unfortunately, the term transsexual has a history, specifically within the trans community, that has to do with marginalizing people who didn't have access to transition care for a long time, and the standards by which we used to evaluate whether somebody was allowed to access transition care for much of our history was far more restrictive and would often deny people who were absolutely trans, who were legitimately trans, the ability to live their life comfortably. And so the term just kind of became associated with a sort of way of viewing the trans experience that only validated an extremely small subset of the population that was trans people at whole. It is often also why I tend to use the word trans instead of transgender personally, because there's some weirdness between transgender and transsexual that it does come up from time to time. It's not as common now. This was really big back in like the 2015s. People would really stake a claim over being transsexual and not transgender. But I just tend to use the term trans because I feel like it just gets above all that. Like, I'm talking about anybody whose experience of gender differs from their sex assigned at birth, or, you know, their experience, like their identity. And so I think it's better to have an umbrella category that acknowledges that the trans experience doesn't necessarily always fit into a nice clean box of like a person who, you know, assigned male who knew they were a girl at 4 and was kicking and screaming and demanding dresses and then went through a medicalized transition. Like, that's just not the reality of most trans people's experience. And so I think the attempt is to get away from that sort of history is the reasoning behind why it is the way it is now. But I would agree that I think it's more accurate to describe gender affirming medical care as like a transsexual care. Like, you are changing like your sex phenotype in a lot of cases. But yeah, Lux, give me your thoughts. Give it to me.
So transsexual was a term that was imposed on us by the medical system, or the psychotherapy system or whatever. So I think that part of it is that like the term transgender, I believe, was like, that's more like what trans people are wanting to use to describe this, and it tries to like center the individual experience of like having a gender that is different to what you were assigned. And it also opens us up to people being included who can't physically transition. So like I agree with you that there are like situations in which it makes sense. Like I for a little bit was like, I'm going to describe myself as a non-binary transsexual because I think it's funny. And it's like I'm pushing the envelope a little bit. And like as a non-binary person, I did physically transition, and like I think that there's this idea that non-binary people are non-transitioning and therefore less legitimate as trans. So by centering transgender, we are taking some of the power away from this idea that you're only valid as a trans person if you seek all these things, or at least if you want to seek all these things. Like if you can't transition for like some medical reason, like you can't have surgery because you would die during surgery or something, that doesn't mean that that person is not trans. And then, you end up with this situation within the trans community of people who have met. Brianna Wu is the reference I'm making there for anybody who's wondering. Like it's nasty. I think that using the term transsexual, it just feeds into so many different things that are negative, such as the medicalization of trans identity. And, the idea that you don't even get to call yourself trans if you haven't had a doctor confirm it for you or something, plus this mean girl shit. And so it just like, what's the utility of using the term? Does it evoke ideas that we don't mean to? Because there's the strict definition of the term, but then there's the connotation, there's the context, there's the flavor. And I just think transsexual has a bad taste in my mouth most of the time. So, I agree with Arden, though. I usually just say trans because I'm like, you fucking understand what I mean when I say that. Like, I don't need to get into the myopia of it. Yeah.
All right, that helps. I do want to touch on the medicalization in a little bit because I have some questions on that too. But before I get to that, like, I understand this concept of you fucking understand what I mean. And I think that you guys understand when I say that I'm not trans, like you know what I mean by that. But there are certain areas where I think that I express feminine qualities in a way that I know it is feminine. Like I am a father, and there are times when I interact with my children in a way that is more feminine because I think that that is appropriate according to the circumstance. And all of us know that that doesn't mean that I'm transgender. There's something different that's being talked about there. And I guess that's part of my confusion when we seem to be very much broadening the tent of what is considered transgender. It almost feels to me like that would be a description of what I'm doing, even though, as you said, like, it's the old Scalia test. Like, when you look at me, you know that I'm not transgender, even if I'm behaving in a feminine way. And that's where it's hard for me to put together, like, what exactly we're talking about when terms get so broadened out and it starts going into an area where it seems to me like just talking about feels.
Well, I mean, we are talking a little bit about feels, right? Because, like, if somebody says they're gay, and let's say it's a man, they're assigned male, they're cisgender man, they say they're gay, but they never have sex with men. Like, does that mean they're not gay? Like, that's all their feelings, right? That all they're talking about when that person says that is their feelings. And that's clearly still valid. So I don't think there's necessarily anything wrong with it being all feels per se. That said, I think the difference here is that part of the problem is that gender kind of has multiple use cases and they often get conflated and overlapped. Like sometimes gender refers to more broadly, like, the roles and expectations and like sort of aesthetics associated with a given sex within a given society at a given time. But also sometimes gender refers to a sort of like persistent identity component that seems to be like a part of the brain. And that's kind of akin to like what the sexuality component is, right? Like even if that person doesn't express their sexuality through behavior, like that component of their brain is still there and exists persistently in their mind. And so generally speaking, I find that trans people are referring to this sort of persistent, durable identity construct within their brain when they're talking about their gender identity. And sometimes that just gets shortened down to gender. But I do think that, there's some niche use cases where you kind of have to listen for like the implied identity behind the word gender. And sometimes where it's just referring again to those broader like social constructive elements. So I think that would be the difference, because obviously like there's cis men who people like to point to, no offense, I don't think that they consider themselves cisgender or like a cis man anymore, but this was an individual who not no offense, oh my god, no, he's a trans man, what the fuck am I talking about? I'm talking about who's the streamer who always dresses up like a girl but is Finster.
I think that they have recently been like, actually, I'm non-binary though.
Yeah, no,
it took a long time.
They came out, but for a long time, like they were considering themselves, a cis man who just like to have a highly feminized expression. And there's a lot of examples of men who are like that, and women who are the inverse of that. So obviously, it's not the expression component, right? There's an identity component underneath it that seems to be the important factor to when someone is trans or not.
Yeah, like part of the point is to make a distinction between behavior and identity. So like part of the point of saying transgender, like I'm saying like pursuing medical transition is a behavior, or wearing fingernail polish is a behavior. And like and like saying that you are trans is a behavior. Like all of those things don't change a person's internal experience of their own reality. So like when I am using gender, like I guess technically you could say gender identity, although I don't like that phrase, but like a person's intrinsic understanding of their gender is not defined by their behavior. And we don't define transgender by behavior. So if you as a dad dress up with your daughter and do fingernail polish and braid each other's hair, that behavior doesn't mean that you are transgender. Although I guess like, I don't know if maybe part of what you're referring to here is that sometimes gender non-conforming people are included in a kind of broad transgender umbrella. I think the main reason that we do that is because gender non-conforming people are the subject of transphobia at times. Like we see this right now with all these bathroom crackdowns, which are largely impacting cisgender women who are too tall or who are butch lesbians. But yeah, that might be one reason why there's a conflation sometimes with like, okay, well, you're cisgender, but you just are gender non-conforming. Like, well, I would not say that you are trans, but I would say that you are impacted by transphobia, in that way where it's like, yeah, you're catching strays that are not intended for you in a way.
Okay, yeah, that's helpful. And I think the example of Finster, I didn't even think about that before you mentioned them, Arden, but that's an example where it would seem to me that if we're looking at what I generally hear described as the concept of gender, when Finster is dressing up as a woman while saying I'm a trans or I'm a cis man, that seems to me to explicitly be swapping the gender, even if it's being temporary, but later on coming out as actually being trans. Like, I think your addition of saying that the identity piece and your own, view of yourself in a more fundamental fashion, I think that's helpful in like differentiating between those two. I did want to ask a question on medicalization real quick. Lux, you had brought that up. The way that I view medicine is like, there is no end state. Like we are still working on discovering more and more. And we have things that continue to progress, whether that be through scientific research or through change in philosophy in how we treat things. So for instance, like I have family who are severely mentally ill, and we would have no terms to describe that, I think like 50 years ago, whereas today we have an understanding of certain mental illnesses. And I don't want to, this was an unfortunate example. I don't want to relate mental illness to transgender. That's not where I'm going. But what I'm saying is we didn't have a way to understand that. And I think in the future, we might have more ability to detect that and to maybe even see like either genetically or through some expression earlier on that there is this certain mental illness, whether it be something like being bipolar or being BPD, whatever, that sort of stuff. When you're talking about concerns of medicalization, I can understand the concern of excluding people who are having a real experience, but wouldn't the idea be trying to push towards having an understanding where eventually we could medically diagnose a person who has some condition that could be helped by medical gender-related treatments, even if today we don't have the tools to diagnose that, wouldn't we want to push towards eventually be like saying, this is a medical thing, maybe we don't know how to figure it out without like self-identifying or a person just talking about their experience, but in the future we hope to be able to identify that better by using scientific tools. Wouldn't that be the ideal?
I mean, I personally like, okay, yeah, like I do think that there probably are things about the brain where you can see something about the pathways of estrogen in the brain that trans women's brains typically more closely resemble cis women's brains. But my problem is that, like, I don't want that to be a part of diagnosis. Like, I don't know if non-binary people have that. And so if we decide to start looking for some specific thing, then people who do want this care, maybe even need this care, are going to be not allowed to do it. Like, where we tend to go on this show is we try to talk about like bodily autonomy and that I shouldn't need to prove some specific thing. Like, we don't do brain scans to determine if someone is depressed. We listen to them, we believe them. Even with the same kind of care, like if a cisgender man says, I can't get my pee-pee hard and I'm getting too tired and I can't work out at the gym, I'm not building muscles, and then we get, you know, I think the most that we do for diagnosis for low testosterone is like, okay, we'll do a blood test. And even if you are within the normative range of testosterone, you can still get testosterone therapy as a cis man to treat what are subjective gender identity related problems. Like, I can't grow big muscles and I want to. And we do like similar stuff for cis women. Like, there are cis women who go on estrogen as like part of their treatment of their PCOS. And that is gender related care that is not medically necessary. It is for mental well-being that we do that for people. So I just don't like it when people are trying to pursue like, you know, let's find the thing in the brain that makes people trans. And then, you know, oh, that's going to, what is like, are we trying to increase the accuracy of diagnosis? Because right now, accuracy of diagnosis is very, very, very high for trans people. So it's like we're seeking some kind of perfection when we have a 98% correct diagnosis anyway, which is higher than most other forms of diagnosis. So I'm just like, I'm not sure what we're going toward if the way that we do things now is already like 98% effective.
Yeah, I
So
also.
when you're talking about that effectiveness, real quick on that, sorry, Arden,
You're
are
okay.
you determining that by regret rate?
Yeah. I mean, yeah,
Okay.
basically like 98% of the time we diagnose, and like, it's not just regret rate. If you also look at like the way that we diagnose children,
The rate at which they like, yeah.
yeah, they continue on with the treatment at a high rate of accuracy. So it's like the process that we're putting people through is already like creating optimal results for the group.
Yeah,
Okay, thanks for clarifying.
But I have kind of a different objection to this whole thing, which is that I'm not entirely convinced. Now, obviously, like, you know, future technology, I have no idea what's going to be capable in the future. And so maybe we can throw this entire idea out. But the entire notion of like pinning down subjective experiential sort of phenomena in humans to a specific brain state, I don't know that will ever realistically be possible, in part because like brains are really dynamic organs. Like, you can remove sections of your brain and you might lose function in a certain way temporarily because of that. But because of neuroplasticity, you know, your brains will grow new pathways and they'll prune old pathways to reestablish a way to do the same thing. So it's like, you can't even really say like the thought or the behavior or the belief or the action existed in that part of your brain if it can be remapped after that part gets removed, right? So like, clearly brains are pretty much the sole determining factor in our consciousness, and yet they're still so dynamic and so fluid in the way that they interact with stimuli. And so I like, it's so difficult to be able to, I'm not sure I'm convinced we're ever going to be able to pin down, like, even depression, right? We used to say like this chemical imbalance thing, but the reason we said that was because when we gave them SSRIs, they got better. So we were like, oh, if we put a chemical in their brain and they gets better, that must mean their chemicals were out of balance. But then we started cutting open people's brains who had depression after they died and found out, oh, that's not completely true across the board. There is a correlation there, but it's brains are unfortunately really dynamic in this way. And so I do think there is a fear, a reasoned fear of a flaw that that kind of diagnostic tool would be weaponized in a deeply unethical way to preventing care from people who would otherwise get it, or prevent, like, you know, like Elon does his sex selective IVF for his kids. Who's to say that if we can't determine that people aren't going to be saying, oh, this kid's going to turn out transgender, I don't want it. Like that. I mean, I don't know that I'm going to say that I don't think parents should have that right, because that feels weird, but I find it extremely gross and very eugenicsy. And I don't know that I would want to see that kind of thing ever evolve. But I mean, potentially maybe some future technology with some really awesome future government that has laws that care deeply about human rights and always operates ethically could say, we found how to determine in uterus that you are going to be transgender, and so we're going to CRISPR fucking swap out your genes to make sure that you know, come out the way that's going to give you the best chance at life. Like, maybe there is a future where that happens, but as things stand right now, I think that is extremely unlikely, and that technology would almost for sure be weaponized in a truly eugenics, like, cruel, evil way before it would ever get used for good.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, I think that explanation falls in line roughly with the way that I see it, because, yeah, I can understand the concern of using this stuff incorrectly. Like, that's something that is a concern. I think the concern on the other side is, are we inhibiting future progress? And it sounds to me like, you know, like, obviously you support having that additional progress if we can get the dangers out of the way, which I completely understand. So, yeah, I think that's probably about it for right now. Your answers were helpful. I'll probably rewatch this at some future point and maybe call in later if I have more questions. But yeah, I appreciate you guys talking me through this stuff.
Thanks, David. This was a really nice call. I appreciate it. Call back sometime.
All right. Have a good day.
See ya. Bye.
Man, there was a caller in here earlier who was like, should non-binary people be considered trans? And they dropped out.
Bummer.
I know.
I've been liking the calls we get lately from people like David. I feel like it's nice to have a talk with someone who's like, I don't completely understand, I want to learn, and like that's where I'm coming from, and not necessarily just a hostile place, because like I do feel like sometimes the conversations with hostile people, while entertaining for you guys, because, you know, I crash out and call them something, it's not, I don't know that it's always reaches people. I think those calls with David are actually like more impactful, but maybe I'm totally wrong. Maybe the crash out ones are more effective. Who fucking knows? Let's talk to Gideon. Gideon, Gideon, him in Louisiana, I almost said Los Angeles, says, is gender really a social construct? Wants help to understand the phrase that gender is a social construct. So, Gideon, you are live with Arden and Lux. What's going on? You're using a web caller. You might have to pull your phone away and tap it. Sometimes if your phone goes to sleep, the web client stops working. So tap your phone, wake up, and then give it a test. Hello, Gideon. Okay, I can't hear you. I'm going to put you back in the queue. We're not going to drop you yet. We're going to take the next caller. And then hopefully you'll be able to get that sorted before then, and then we will, oops. He dropped. Man, I was going to put him back in the queue to take him later, but I went to hit return to queue and it was like, caller not found, error. So we're going to talk to Giddy, him in Utah. The lines are closed, unfortunately. I'm not going to open them back up because I'm going to see a movie later and I don't want this show to be pushing me to the line. So, Giddy, him in Utah has questions about addressing a transphobe and how to convince them that their views are transphobic. Oh boy. Giddy, you are live with Arden and Lux. Talk to us.
Hi. Sorry, I'm still... What a coincidence. My actual name is Gideon, so I thought, yeah, that was weird.
I wondered that. When I was bringing him on, I was like, oh, I bet Giddy's real name is Gideon, and that's going to be so confusing. That's funny. Go for it.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so there's two. There can only be one. I got to meet him. No. So yeah, so there's so much out there about like debating transphobic arguments, but I have questions about telling a transphobe that they are actually transphobic and that their arguments and ideology is harming them too. But so let's just start with that one. Like, I think it's worthwhile to tell them, like, hey, you're being transphobic, and this, what you think is right is wrong, and that it's hurting you. Like, is that a good place to start?
I mean, if you want somebody to hear you, you cannot use the word transphobic. It's like racist, you know, like people think I'm not racist, therefore nothing I do is racist. And so if you accuse them of being racist, they shut down completely. So if you want someone to like hear you out, then probably what you would want to do is be like, hey, this view that you're professing is harmful to trans people. And like, you know, let's just say the bathroom issue, right? You could be like, hey, you know, mom, you have short hair. And if you are going after trans people, like you're the one who's going to get like kicked out of the bathroom or whatever, like appealing to people's self-interest and describing like objectively where possible, like the material impact of that belief rather than saying this is transphobic. Um, I don't think it's bad to address people's transphobia. I just think that if you want them to really hear you out, they are not going to do that. If you, it feels aggressive to them when you call them transphobic, if that makes any sense.
Okay, so I guess I can break it down of like, hey, you're not to transphobe, or like not avoiding that word. If I just said like, hey, you have a lack of empathy, you have not very good skeptical skills, you know, that seems just there's also pushback there. So even staying away from that word, accurately portraying their actions without using that word still seems aggressive.
Yeah. This is the difficulty with the convincing 101 people, and why I often tell people like the things we do here, do not try to apply them on one-on-one personal conversations. It's not the same. Like, for example, like my talk I did at American Atheist, which by the way, you can watch the whole thing on my YouTube channel. Give me a little promo. Just getting kicked off. The name of the talk was Transphobia in the Secular Movement, right? But one of the first, like the second or third paragraph, I go into detail about how when I say transphobia, I'm not trying to brand you with a scarlet T. I'm not trying to say you're like a leper who needs to be shunned from the entire community. I'm trying to show you how your actions and behaviors are further marginalizing trans people. But without even watching it, I was going through the comments of my friends who shared it, and they were like, why are we calling people transphobic? How is this? This is just turning people out. I'm like, you didn't even watch the video, because if you watched it for 5 seconds, you would know that I addressed this point specifically at the beginning. But like Lux is saying, the second you use that word, it shuts a lot of people off. I kind of did so intentionally in that case, but in your case, I absolutely agree. I think you can't, you gotta try to reach them on like a more human level. Like it might almost be better, rather than trying to assert something about what they said, like ask them a question. Be like, hey man, like why did you say that? Like that, don't you think that's kind of harmful to trans people? Like if you ask it a question, I think that kind of comes off less threatening to people and invites them to be like, you know, either, oh, maybe it is, or maybe they're going to be like, why do I fucking care if it's harmful to trans people? And then that kind of tells you that maybe this isn't a person that's even worth engaging with in the first place, because they don't seem to have basic empathy. And then you can be like, that's gross, you don't even have basic empathy and you're kind of stupid and a transphobe. You know, you can deliver all that after. But I think definitely like trying to, when you're having one-on-one conversations, it's definitely just going to shut people down if you start kind of labeling them or like assigning motive or value to the things that they're saying. You definitely have to be a little bit more tactful on those one-on-one conversations.
Okay, wow. I was actually just you mentioned like empathy, and that's actually my next question. You're really good at this, you know that. Yeah, you should get paid more.
That's always true. Tell Jimmy to pay Arden more.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, okay. So I was gonna bring it down to like, if not transphobic, I can address other things like lack of empathy, and if they have that, if they don't have that, gauge from there. But to my understanding in my own personal journey, I don't think I ever became an ally because I empathized with the trans experience. I just I don't think you need empathy to change your mind about these things, or at least that was my experience. But I could be wrong. Do you actually need empathy to understand the difference between a cis experience and a transgender experience, and then to work from there?
No, I think you could absolutely appeal to somebody's selfish interests. I mean, like, we'll often talk about how, like, I think Lux said it, he was like a call or two ago, how like the bathroom laws, you know, are going to overwhelmingly affect cisgender women. So you can kind of be like, hey, do you want a cop who's like dick tapping you every time you go into the bathroom to check your gender to make sure it's right? Probably not. You want your tax dollars to be going to, you know, these politicians who could be doing anything about your quality of your education, the quality of your healthcare, the expense of your housing, the expense of groceries. But instead, they're talking about, like here in Texas, making a law to make it so kids can't do non-human behavior. And when asked, do you have any evidence of any school where a single litter box was put into a classroom? And they said, no, I don't. Because it's fucking made up, right? You can appeal to those sort of selfish interests of like, this is what your tax dollars are going to. This is how it's going to impact your life. I think there's definitely ways you can sort of appeal to those sort of universal selfish interests there as attacked. I don't know, Lex, do you have any like thoughts on that sort of universalizing thing?
I guess I would just want to speak to like the interpersonal effectiveness component of this. Like, you know, Giddy, when I initially said like maybe avoid saying transphobic, you were like, okay, so maybe I just need to tell them like you are acting without empathy right now. And I was like, no. So I have studied this quite a bit because I struggle with interpersonal communication in my life. If you are trying to get someone to address some of their issues, one of the first things to do is to go with open curiosity. If they're doing a behavior that is unempathetic, rather than being like, you lack empathy right now, being like, asking them like, why do they feel that way? And then if you are trying to address something that a person is doing, it's usually best to like avoid using the word you at all, if possible. Like saying, I feel this way, or I have noticed that when this happens, you get upset. And I am curious as to why that is. Or something like it, like this is something you could probably learn about with like the Gottman's Four Horsemen. It's really aimed at like marriage, but it is just like, how do you avoid contempt in relationships? Like how do you communicate your needs? Also, there's like an interpersonal effectiveness portion of dialectical behavioral therapy that I recommend people look into because it is evidence-based. And it's like, how can you structure what you're saying in a way that makes them listen to you? Because there's like a natural push and pull. If you're making a request, like if you're like, hey, I want you to stop saying that, then structuring your request in a way where you're like, I've noticed that this happens and it makes me feel like this, and I'm going to ask you to change. And if you change, here's the positive benefit. Yeah, so like trying to
Like the
avoid
dear
blaming
man,
language. Yes,
right?
literally dear man.
Yeah.
That just explained dear man. Yeah. Yeah, describe, express, ask, reward. Yeah, so there's like, if you're trying to convince people of anything or trying to express how you feel about anything, you know, finding out what is like the evidence-based practice and the main things, being open, curious, questioning, and being like genuinely open to what they say. Like, hey, I noticed that you got really upset when we were talking about transgender people, and I'm just curious what's going on with that. Like, I'm curious why you feel that way. And avoiding blaming language, avoiding you do this, you do that, and avoiding should as well. Like, well, you shouldn't be like that. That is 100% not the right way to go if you are trying to get someone to be open and listen to you. So modeling the behavior by expressing curiosity and openness, I think is a huge part of it.
Wow, that was sorry, what was that? You said Gottman. What was it, Gottman Institute or something like that? What was
Yeah,
that place you
the
said?
Gottman Institute Or you could look up Gottman's Four Horsemen, Gottman. It's a dude's name. And then yeah, if you look into like DBT interpersonal effectiveness as well, those are going to be like some really hot pointers of how to use evidence-based practice to get people to do what you want, which feels manipulative, but it's just like that's how brains work, turns out.
Mhm.
Oh, wait, sorry. You said this was geared toward marriage, though, right?
So Gottman's thing focuses on marriage, but it's like relationships and like how can you improve
Oh, okay.
relationships by
Mhm.
improving communication. And then the DBT stuff I've
Oh,
mentioned, like the Dear Man, that is just more general interpersonal effectiveness.
That's like DEAR man, like dear so and so, like you're starting a letter. Dear man, it's an acronym that describes like a strategy for that interpersonal effectiveness.
okay. Yeah. No. Thank you for the recommendation. I'll hit them up and yeah. I do have one bit of a kind of tangent question about communicating. Do we
Okay.
have time for that?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I've found that in my anecdotal, I hope I said that word right, experience, that that people without that seem to show a lack of empathy seem to largely learn things adjacent to what they already know and experience for themselves. I'm not sure if that's a thing, but so if it's the case that they largely learn only adjacent to what they already know, how can I? What is adjacent to teach them to separate sex and gender? Because that's usually the first thing needed for them to understand and to understand the difference between their cis experience and transgender, and they have nothing to really pull from. Sorry, did that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense as a question. I'm not sure that I have solid advice for you because I think every person is going to be so different and every situation is going to be so different. And if someone isn't really open to being educated, it's not likely that they're going to receive well you trying to like educate them on the issue. So I do think kind of like we were talking earlier, like doing those strategies to build rapport is going to be a good first step. And then maybe that's the thing you can have on like the second or third conversation. Um, that said, I mean, you can again try to sort of appeal to the ways in which, you know, gender and sex are different in their own life. Like when they're, you know, walking by someone on the street that they think is really hot, I have a hard time believing that they have, you know, chromosome X-ray eyes that are letting them evaluate that person's sex. They're making assumptions based on, you know, the aesthetics and the trends that we see in our culture about gender. So you can kind of try to appeal to the ways in which they already in their personal life are separating gender and sex. But yeah, I do think it's still more beneficial to have rapport or to be in an environment where someone is specifically kind of looking to learn and be educated on that matter. I don't know, Lux, what are your thoughts on that?
I guess like I think the easiest way to demonstrate to a cis person that sex and gender are different is to ask them like, if you were horribly mangled and the lower half of your body is gone, would you still identify as a woman? Or like if you had a hysterectomy, would you still identify as a woman? And just kind of getting people to be like, okay, let me imagine a situation where I can't use those things that I usually use to define my womanhood or whatever. Yeah, I guess like that's the short answer.
Okay. I kind of already asked that. They just basically boiled down to if you had the genitalia, you are this. But
Or like if you found out that your chromosomes were different than you expected to, would you then start identifying as the opposite gender? Like I guess that's
That's a
another way
good
that you could
one.
throw it. Yeah.
I like that one.
no, they said no matter what it's made out of, if it's a penis, you're a man. That's
Okay.
what
Yeah,
they
I
said.
mean, this is why I'm saying, like, I think you're already kind of going to run into a wall if your goal is to start a conversation and to start educating them about this. Like, you really need to kind of build that rapport where that is something that this person's like, oh, when Giddy comes along, we have these kind of like deeper discussions about philosophy and like why we believe certain things. And oh, now we're talking about this. So like that's going to cause them to be in a more introspective state when you're approaching them, you know, rather than being like, oh, here Giddy's about to fucking quiz me on if I woke right on gender, and so they're probably going to be inclined to be like, nah, fuck it, you dick is all it takes. Dick
Yeah.
or no dick is all that gender is, and you know and then that's not getting anywhere. But you might be, by asking them these questions, planting a seed in their head that'll cause them to think, and maybe over time it'll start to have an effect. But yeah, if you want to be effective, like within the course of a conversation, it's going to have to be one done with strategy. I would highly recommend, if you haven't heard about it already, looking into street epistemology. Street epistemology, specifically by Anthony Magnabosco. Not only is Anthony Magnabosco just a really cool dude, but he does a bunch of videos. He doesn't really do them anymore. I know he's busy running like an organization on this topic now, but he used to do a bunch of videos where he would go to like college campuses or like public, like, you know, biking paths and things, and stop people and be like, hey, do you have a minute to talk about your beliefs and like why you believe them? And a lot of people, because that's so non-confrontational, will be like, oh yeah, sure, we can talk a little bit. And then he'll ask a lot of questions about like, you know, like, why do you believe that? How confident are you in that your belief is actually true? You know, like if you had to rate it on a scale of 1 to 100, give it a number, how confident would you be? And then when they give a number, he can ask, you know, oh, why? We're like, oh, wow, 100. I don't know that I would put 100 on anything. Why would you say 100 about that? And it just kind of invites a more friendly conversation without encouraging their walls to go up. So that is definitely a good strategy you can take. There are problems with street epistemology for sure, but I think it sounds like it would be an improvement to the strategy you're doing now. So give it a look.
Oh gosh, dang, wow. Okay, I have one tiny tangent question, but I don't know if there's time. Maybe I'll save it for next time then, or no?
If it's quick, you can do it. We got a few more minutes and we're going to move on to super chats.
Okay, cool. This will probably take 30 seconds.
Okay.
So yeah, so I've expressed that they basically feel that they don't. He doesn't feel. Sorry, he doesn't separate sex and gender. So if he has penis, he's man. And he also doesn't. I've never heard this argument before. So he has expressed that he doesn't feel manly. He doesn't believe in gender as an actual concept. So when I give him examples of gender expression, what kind of clothes do you wear? He says, I don't need clothes to affirm my gender identity. My penis does that. And I'm like, okay, so do you wear dresses or shirts or manly clothes? And he's like, no, I wear things for utility. I wear things tactically. So he doesn't quite believe in the concept of gender expression.
Is his haircut short?
Gender. Well, yes.
Then he's full of shit.
Well, he says that that's also tactical, so you don't get your hair pulled.
It's just convenient that it aligns with society's expectations for all men. I swear, it's tactical. It's purely a strategy decision. I would mock him for that, honestly. If somebody's like, my hair is short because it's tactical, I'd be like, yeah, okay. It's just really convenient for you that also aligns with the male expectations in society. You know what else is tactical? You could have long hair and put it into a fucking tight like braid down your head. Don't see him doing that. You can have tactical long hair, but he's
not getting your hair cut.
Yeah, right, exactly. There's tactics to that. He's full of shit is what he is. He's trying to post hoc rationalize why he makes the decisions that he does. And he didn't, I guarantee you he did. What kind of clothes was he wearing? Did he have like cargo shorts on? Is that what his tactical clothes were?
Not cargo shorts, but good for running in case he needs to. it's rather extreme.
Yeah,
But,
he's either full of shit or he is like an actually like. Listen, I'm a little bit of a prepper, so no hate, but like he's like that's like a delusional level of prepper where you're like, I have to wear running pants 24/7 in case I need to run. Like, I'm sorry, that sounds like you have more of like an obsessive compulsive disorder than you really have a desire for tactic, as far as I can tell. Yeah, I don't know. At that point, I would probably start mocking that person, not seriously engage them. But sorry, go on.
But wouldn't that just be an agender expression, an expression outside of gender? Is that a thing?
It could. So this is the hard thing. There is a kind of weird overlap behind people who are cis and have cis privilege, who don't really have to contend with their gender ever on a day-to-day basis. Especially men, I find, who feel that they don't have strong feelings about their gender because it doesn't come up, right? So they're like, but there are also people who sincerely have a sense of like gender apathy, where they're like just detached from the entire concept. I don't care. I'm not trying to stake my claim on whatever, on any sort of box here. There is a difference between those two things, and often cis men who have a lot of cis privilege, who never have to face any like gender-based violence or discrimination in their life, will be like, I'm gender apathetic, when I'm like, no, really what you are is privilege for never having to contend with the consequences of your gender. And they do contend with some consequences, but not as much as other people, right? So I don't know. Lux, do you have any thoughts on that shit? You consider yourself sort of like agender, right?
Yeah, I guess like, yeah, I'm kind of similar, I guess, in that like I think people think I'm a woman because I dress in a way that is utilitarian, like because I don't bother to really like try to do a gender expression otherwise. But yeah, I don't know how, like when you're dealing with someone who is oppositional to you, it's like hard to even take what they say as being like true, like how much do they actually believe that gender is not relevant? Like, and like, again, if you've been having these discussions, they might have like an entrenched, I'm going to disagree with you no matter what, even if it is not logical, because I have decided to disagree with you. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I don't really have a lot else to add.
Okay. No, that seems to work out just fine. Lot to think on. All the possibilities might be we think to consider.
Yep.
Yeah. No, that's about it. Thank you.
Awesome.
Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Giddy, for calling in. We will talk to you later.
Bye.
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 All right. I'm going to run to the bathroom real quick because I'm gonna pee my pants before we do these super chats. So I'm gonna one up the screen for you. Okay, cool. Good.
Yes. Get ready to do your super chats, okay? It's not too late in the show for you to hit the like button as well. That's a quick, easy, free way for you to support the show. We always appreciate it. And yeah, we're going to get into these super chats soon. When you do your super chats, it's $5 or more. We read those out and then get your hashtag Team Lux or hashtag Team Arden votes in there. And the loser is going to have to defend a funny, silly position. Which when Arden gets back, she will put the poll up for you guys because you get to vote in the poll, which you don't have to super chat for that. You can just vote. You can vote on which one you want us to defend. And I don't know what options we have. We'll wait for Arden to get back to tell us what the options are. But this is supposed to be a little, fun, amusing part of the show. Yeah. And it's going to be good. Man, I'm so excited to do something for Beltane. I'm so worried that I'm going to forget to celebrate it. I know I'm an atheist, but I'm a little bit of a pagan in like a non-spiritual way. I like having excuses to decorate. I like having excuses to celebrate. I think we all love Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas so much because it gives you a great opportunity to like dress up your house cute. And I pull out so many house decorations when Halloween time comes. I'm sitting here like I got a little like witch hat that I made my cat. Oh man, I don't know where it is right now, but I made a like witch hat out of crochet that my cat's ears stick through. Halloween's the best. So I've just decided to take on paganism so that I can have an excuse to decorate my house throughout the year. It's nice.
I love it. Sorry. Here, I'll do my.
Yes. Okay. And you can tell what the poll is going to be for the silly positions because I set
Hell
you up
yeah.
for that.
All right. I got those sorted now. So our polls for the loser position. So if you don't know, when we do our super chats, if you include hashtag Team Arden or hashtag Team Lux, each one of those hashtags equals, well, one hashtag per super chat equals a vote. And whoever has the least amount of votes at the end has to defend a silly position voted on by you guys. So this week's positions are all clothing must be tactical, HRT dispensed via a kissing booth, or TERFs must duel a raccoon for rights. So those are your options. Those are in the chat now. You guys can tell me what you think, what position you want us to defend. I might be in favor of the last one. Just kidding. Not in reality, but it would be funny. There's a part of me that wants to live in that reality. So, oh my goodness. I'm super bummed that one caller dropped, but I thought we had a good collection today. I don't know how you guys feel. Got a nice chunk of super chats we're going to get to here shortly. So I'm excited. Team Arden, show up. Get your votes in. Hashtag Team Arden. Let's see. Let's do 3 right now. 3 of you in the audience sitting there right now. I need to send us hashtag Team Arden super chat right now. That's what you need to do. All right. We are back in action. We ready to go? Let's do it. All right. Wait, is that the first? Okay, yeah, that is the first one. You want to read
Thank
that
you.
one?
Yeah, I'll go. Thank you for the 10 Australian dollars from Puggles. Responding to David Haxor. Thank you for including me in your super chat yesterday. This one is for us. Hashtag Team Rock Paper Scissors for it. I can't choose between Arden and Lux. Oh, are we gonna rock paper scissors?
It's gonna be really hard because there's a time delay. I'll close my eye. Yeah, I'll close my eyes in 1, 2, 3, and then okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. Look. Okay, I lose that one. You got that one.
Okay.
All right, vote for Lux.
Nice. I love that. Let's do that more often now.
That was fun. I don't mind that.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. Up next, we have $5 from Zurith Moonpaw. Eminem versus Weird Al, who is winning a rap battle. I mean, Eminem is winning the rap battle. If it's a funny rap battle, then Weird Al, he can go pretty fucking hard. I mean, some of his shit is actually mildly impressive. When I'm like, okay, you're doing this and making it funny, that's pretty good. But Eminem on his
Hardware
own.
Store.
Wait,
like the Hardware Store song from Weird Al.
Why am I not remembering the Hardware Store one? Matt listens to Weird Al all the time.
He's like, they got water heaters, electric heaters, something, trash compactors. Like, it just goes fucking on. And like, you can do it in one breath. Not easy to do. It's like, he's got the fast rap thing going on. But I do think Eminem is like, I mean, how many different times can you rhyme the word again?
See, I'm just thinking of the rap god. I loved, like, it was a few months ago. I'm sure it's gone now. I haven't played Fortnite in a while, but for a while, Fortnite had a minigun, a machine gun, that when it got firing up would start to do the rap god. And you see all the little words popping off. It was like, that's pretty funny.
Yeah. $5 from Zurith Moonpaw. Sorry, my husband was like, I'm having sharp pain in my lung. And I'm like,
oh no.
What happened? I think it's probably just musculoskeletal pain. But I was a little bit wrapped up in that for a second. Anyway, we're fine.
Valid.
$5 from Zurith Moonpaw. Hashtag Team Kitty Master. That's hashtag Team Lux. Oh, he's right here. I will get him for you.
That's 2 for you. Kitty Master. Oh.
Totally asleep, too. He was completely asleep.
Look at this big ball of chunk. Oh, look at that sneeze. Oh, he's so cute.
Oh, boy.
Oh. Yeah, don't you just want to give him kisses? I love cats so much.
They're perfect. I'm thinking about getting another one. because I want him to have a friend and like someone to entertain
Yeah.
him at night because we lock him out of the bedroom and everything. We're gonna get you a cat, and you're not gonna know what to do with yourself.
I wish if we had more time and more like less reptiles, I would get another cat because I always feel so bad. I think Daphne's a little lonely. I don't want her to be lonely.
So sad.
I know. All right, we got $5 Canadian from Quantos Nachos.
Nice.
Josie's not here to know that I just totally roasted her. Arden, your talk was awesome. Thanks for posting. Yeah. Arden, your talk was awesome. Thanks for posting it. You did smart words good. Hashtag can't use. Hashtag fave host. Hashtag team TACIS. Well, shame on you for being a fence sitter, but I appreciate the praise for the talk. Thank you. I already, it's so funny. It definitely, I think Katie reposted it or something. So I got some like turf haters in the comments, and all of their comments are just clearly showing they didn't listen. Like one of them was like, that paper for, was it the damage, hole in the body, irreversible damage. I talked about how the paper was retracted, and they were like, that paper wasn't retracted. That's a lie. Literally, if you go to the article online where the paper is published, they have retracted article in all caps before the rest of the title. Like what do you mean? It's literally in front of you. It says retracted article right there. Like, it's so wild. And so I deleted that person's comment because they left like 5 of those that were like all 2 paragraphs long, all the same kind of shit. And I was like, yeah, you can just get fucked.
Essay length comments you're just gonna delete forever.
Yeah, I'm like, there's no substance in this criticism. You're just trying to be difficult. So goodbye.
$5. Thank you from Ava Morn. Says trans woman in Oklahoma. I took my first dose of HRT a week ago tomorrow. Experiencing the transest and most joyous of trans joys. Hashtag Team Arden.
Aww.
That's awesome. I'm so happy for you. I love
Congrats. That's so nice.
There's that like immediate placebo effect, and then in about 3 weeks you'll actually know if it's making you feel better.
50 Australian dollars from Puggles. Wow, that's so generous. Thank you. A second rock, paper, scissors for me to even things up. Sorry. Okay, ready? Close my eyes.
All right.
Ready? 1, 2, 3.
This time it was paper.
Oh, you got it again. God damn. I'm getting stomped.
You also do it. You do it on 3. I do it on 4.
Go. Oh yeah. Yep.
That's fun.
That's valid. I just luckily it doesn't matter when we don't look, but yeah, that's really funny. Okay, we've oh no, this one's you. Yeah.
Yes. $5 from Mira G. Thank you. Says mildly helpful for the VA's trans healthcare since several Congress members have signed a letter to Secretary Collins challenging the removal. Hashtag Team Arden for hair. That's so great. I know Mira has been having issues with VA and like they were given prescribed something before all these changes, and then there was like been bullshit about getting that care. So I'm so glad for you, Mira, that things are hopefully looking up, looking more positive from here on out.
Yeah, for real. And thank you for the hair cat. Thank you guys. I do really love it. It has been honestly, it's one of those things I've heard this more from like trans masculine people where they'll be like, oh, like I think I felt the need to be more conforming at first, and then after I felt like I had masculized my body sufficiently, I was more comfortable doing feminine things. And it feels kind of similarly where I was like always so afraid of cutting my hair because it felt like so integral to my femininity. But now that I feel like I'm at a stage in my transition where like I'm really solid, like nothing was going to make me feel any different about myself. I'm like, I was ready for it. And I feel like I do look a little bit more bisexual too, which is like really important, you know? I'm like, stop assuming I'm straight.
Yeah, stop it. Yeah. Someone said right at the beginning of stream that like it is that, as a trans woman, you know that you're in a good place in your transition when you can cut your hair kind of short. And like your hair is not short. Like
no, I know.
Short-ish. But you know,
short
it's not
for
like
me.
You went pixie cut. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, honestly, it was even shorter than I asked her to do, but I'm happy with that. I like it a lot because my hairstylist is awesome. I love her to death. So
yeah. I'm considering going to a stylist to be like, can you teach me how to do my curls? Because I clearly like this poofy mess. And like I see the girls, they do this thing where they like they twist each curl up with their fingers and then let it down when they're styling it. And I'm like, I don't understand. I need someone to show me how.
That's a lot. I think you can get a very similar effect without having to do that. You just need a lot of like curl oriented products, and also like either letting it air dry or like doing like a diffuser kind of situation can be good for that. My hair is pretty naturally curly, so I do
curl in a weird direction, and it's like you're supposed to be able to help them twist out the other direction. I think because my hair looks way better one direction than the other. Like when I flip my whole head over, it looks way better on this side. I don't know why. So we're learning. I wasn't taught how to do feminine things.
Neither was I. I don't know shit about it. I learned all my makeup stuff online, but when I try to learn hair stuff online, people will be like, yeah, you put it in the thing and then you do it. And then I'd be like, that doesn't help me. I don't know if I am like, there's like a certain level of like neurodivergent thing where I just like, I need some more specific instructions for me to process that, because that doesn't help me. Whereas the makeup stuff was always so step by step. It was like, do this, and then you tap it off, and then you put this here, and then you like do this other side. Well, you still have that color, and then once there's less color on the brush, then you can like blend it. You know, it was so specific that it was really easy to follow. But
curly girlies need to get on it.
Curly girlies, feel it.
This one mine or yours?
I don't know. $5 from Alchemist. Hey, questioning soul here to Luxander. How did you figure out your NB? Trying to sort out what I am. All I know is I'm not cis.
Yeah, I mean, I guess for me, it was like I had the initial hit of dysphoria when I was like 14. And I kind of construed that as like, oh, I guess I'm a trans boy. And I kind of went that direction. And then every single time in my life that I have tried to be a gender conforming masculine person, it has made me feel terrible. So I was like, I think the only logical conclusion to take from that is that I am a non-binary. And then, you know, even my identity within being non-binary has changed over time. But yeah, so for me, it was a process of elimination kind of thing. And, you know, figuring out what feels good. And like, yeah, I want a masculine transition, but I still want to be feminine. It was like kind of complicated. And I think there's probably a lot of people out there who would be like, you don't even count as trans. And I would be like, okay, well, cool. Like I still am like violently opposed anytime I get grouped in with women. So yeah, like that's dysphoria of some kind. And then like chasing the euphoria too, I guess can help, but it doesn't really help if you're like the euphoria is in femininity and femininity is associated with your assigned gender at birth. Kind of can be confusing. So like, yeah, process of elimination.
I always found it so interesting when people can understand the binary trans experience of like having a visceral rejection of the gender you were supposed to be, but then don't understand that someone can have that going both ways. Like somebody asked me recently, because I said I used to be trans medicalist, but I never really was like anti-non-binary. Like I had a non-binary roommate when I was going through that, and that's how they conveyed their experience. And I was like, that makes perfect sense to me. I had a visceral reaction of, ooh, no, fuck no, to being a man. And you just had that going both ways. Like it just checks out to me. And like when people have a heart, they're like, well, you have to choose.
Stop telling me what to do. I'll do what
You're
I want.
not my mom.
Literally, even my mom can't tell me what to do. $9.99 from JW Edgy. Thank you. Says my girlfriend's car got hit some point last night. No note. Vet told us this morning dog's knees are dislocated. Bad start today.
no.
At least I can hear big OTs crash out live. Bigots crash out live. Oh, I see. That didn't want you to type the word bigot. Hashtag Team Lux. Yeah, Jesus, I'm so sorry. That's crazy. Like, oh man, for someone to hit your car and then not leave a note and then get bad medical news about your animal too. Like, yeah. I had a cat who fell off the top of the refrigerator and like in trying to catch himself, he ripped a tendon in his knee. And he figured it out. Like, basically, the vet was like, he's a cat. He'll fucking figure it out. Do you want to do a $4,000 surgery or just let him figure it out? And like, sometimes you could tell that he had done something to it. Basically, it's like there's like these two ligaments or tendons or whatever that hold your kneecap where it's supposed to be. And one of them broke. So sometimes his knee would pop sideways. But he figured it out. He figured it out. And then he died of a cardiovascular problem. So, you know, yeah, but that's bad news. I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, pet news is always really crushing.
My cat's 15. I'm starting to mentally get in that zone of being prepared, you know?
Yeah. Another 5 from JW Edgy. Talked to my grandparents yesterday. I don't see my family. They don't know I'm trans. Probably hated hearing my dead name. Hashtag Team Lux. Yeah, I'm sorry. That's so difficult.
You'll get there.
Just to let you know, it doesn't even always help when they use your correct name. My family doesn't dead name me anymore, but that's because I've been Arden longer than I had my dead name now. But they still don't really accept. Not, I mean, my mom does, and that side of my family, but the whole other side is like, wow, you got my name right, but can you get everything else, please? It really should not be that hard. Yeah.
5 Australian from Puggles, thank you, says, sorry about the typo in Super Chat. I added too many A's, A-I. Ugh, being Aussie does not help my communication. Yeah, the Australian accent is the one that makes like the least sense to me. I find sometimes I'll be like, where the fuck is this person from? And then they say they're Australian and I'm like, why didn't I know that?
Yep. I used to love that show H2O growing up, and I love oh my god, there's so many little accent quirks. I love the nar. Nar is so good. I like where did you get that vowel or that consonant? There is no R there. You just made that shit up.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
1999 from Miss Boogalicious. I love that name. Blue skin and antennae. The correct term is Andorian. Voting Team Arden. No hashtag, no vote, Miss Boogalicious. I'm so sorry. I also don't know what Andorian is.
Star Trek.
Oh, okay. Catch me. Even if I know the media, I probably wouldn't keep track of that kind of information. That's the kind of thing that goes into my brain and reflects off of my ADHD shield. I'm like, is this pertinent to my survival? Nope. Deleted.
It's like Sherlock Holmes, and how Sherlock Holmes is like, okay, great. You just told me about the solar system. Deleted. I don't need to know that.
Right.
Yeah.
That is definitely how my brain works, for better or worse.
Mm-hmm. Oh, thank you for 200 of DKK units. I don't know what that means. From Bodhi Bit, just a random lesson in Tokipona. Oh God. I'm just gonna assume that this is all pronounced the way that I think it's pronounced. Melitonsi li meli, miche tonsi li miche, hantonsi li pona, kentonsi li kenjan. Trans women are women, trans men are men, non-binary people are valid, trans rights are human rights. Love that. Thank you for the lesson.
Right on.
I butchered it 100%, but we tried.
We tried, and that's all we can do. Also, those are Donkey Kong killers, I'm pretty sure. I'm so sorry.
Really?
You just gave me like a really sweet, like cross-cultural, like education, and I turned it into Donkey Kong. I'm a child. I apologize.
Mm-hmm.
5 pounds from Sean Isherwood. Well done on your recent speech, Arden. I saw it on your channel. I've given a talk or two, and they can be nerve-wracking. Good job. Thanks. Yeah, it was a good experience. And funny, one of the other comments that I got from a hater was like, you can tell that they stopped liking his speech when they all sat down. And I'm like, literally, I got a standing ovation at the end.
Yeah.
You could lie. You could try harder to lie. It's like when somebody also mentioned that I had an Adam's apple recently, and I'm like, I've literally had it surgically removed from my body. So you're gonna have to try harder with your lies, because that is just not even like. It's just silly. It just makes me laugh, because I'm like, I know you just genuinely just reached for the closest like man thing you could think to say, and you didn't actually like observe my body at all.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah. They'll just say whatever because they think it's going to be hurtful.
Instead, I'm
$5
just
from
laughing.
Mira G. Yeah. Instead, I'm just laughing. Exactly. Hashtag Team Mitternacht because Kitty. What can I say? I'm a sucker for the void. It's true.
Me too.
Am I going to do it to him twice? I picked him up and I put him down. He went and drank some water, took a stinky shit, and then came back. Am I going to violate his trust by doing it again?
He's like, I'll shit again. You test me.
Yeah.
Oh
thank you,
my
Mira.
God. Another 5 from Sean Isherwood. Careful, Arden. Fitch's theorem states that there are true statements that are not only unknown, but unknowable. I don't doubt that there are things that are unknowable. But my problem is when you're claiming to have faith in the God that is unknowable. yes, of course, there are things that are potentially could never be known, but like, then you can't know them or claim to have any sort of rational belief in them because they are literally unknowable. Like, by definition, you are ruling out the capability to be reasonably believing in them. But yeah, I don't doubt that there are things that are unknown. I don't think I've ever said anything to the contrary.
Yeah, like where is transness in the brain? Unknowable. But
Yeah,
you are able to determine its existence by looking at other factors, much like black holes are not directly observable, but we know where they are because of their effect on things around them.
right.
Anyway. $10 from Jamnico6. Thank you. Says, when a non-binary friend of mine had their top surgery, they said no to nipples. Florida nudity laws for females are based on nipple exposure. Now they go topless to the beach and proudly display their scars. Hashtag Team NB. I love that.
Hell yeah.
That's so great. Yeah, did y'all know that insurance sometimes makes you pay full price for the nipples? So there's all this like moral panic from people like Buck Angel about like, oh my God, all these people are choosing not to have nipples. Like, sir, $2,000 in my hand right now. Do it.
Yeah, for real. Also, I don't know if y'all watched Survivor, but last season, one of the contestants that made it to the end was non-binary. They weren't really out at the time. They were the like most obviously non-binary person, and they were all just she/herring them the entire time. But they even confessed, like they talked about their gender a little bit at the end, but they were like, "I'm not like ready to do that yet." But they recently got top surgery and they didn't do any nipples, and they've been posting shirtless pics all over for like the summer. And I'm like, fuck yeah. Like, Survivor has always been good about this stuff, but it also just, I love to see it again. Like, hell yeah.
Yes.
Another 5 from Jamnico6. Yes, YouTube made me misspell nipples. So offensive. /yes. Hashtag Team Lux. The thing that always gets me about that censorship stuff, too, is we all find ways to talk about it. Like, you're not actually stopping the discussion. You're just making us use code words. It's so dumb.
Yeah.
Segs. Okay,
Segs,
that's helping everyone.
Unalive,
yeah.
Porn.
Yeah.
£5 from Sean Isherwood. Thank you. Says, as a trans guy, a trans guy I spoke with for a while on OkCupid turned out to believe in tarot cards. I explained some of the mathematics that refutes it. It didn't work out. Yeah, I love tarot. It's fun, but it only tells you what you are thinking. You're like, oh, I liked that card, or I didn't like that card. That's what you're actually learning about, is yourself.
I like the art. I also love crystals. The crystals, I love how they look. They're beautiful. It's like when somebody starts to be like, they're magic, and I put it in the moon to charge it. And I'm like, I can't believe that's real.
But I don't believe in any of that shit. Like, I would, for my own ritual purposes, I would do something like put like or like sun tea. Like, I do kind of on some level, I'm like, yeah, I like the idea of the energy of the sun going into the tea. And then I can imagine that I'm consuming the vitality. But I'm just imagining shit. I know that. I know that I'm just making shit up. It's like, but when you don't know how real people are being about those beliefs, that's when I start to get uncomfortable. That's why I don't really hang out with other people who do pagan shit. Because I think if they were more serious than I would be like, I don't want to be here anymore.
Makes me want to try sunning. You know, if I'm going to sun my tea, I'm going to do the where you spread your butthole to the sun.
Yeah. Get your legs up.
Give me energy.
The yonic energy of the moon or whatever.
It's just like a real enema. Like, you don't even need to drink it. Just bypass that whole system. Just put it directly in your butthole.
Boofing the moon.
Boofing the moon. Moving. Or booning, maybe.
Yeah. Booning sounds too close to boning. All right, we need a distinction.
That's kind of why I like it, though.
I'm booning.
The moon is boning me. It's booning. I'm booning the moon.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay, it's reciprocal.
See?
Yeah. Totally. Awesome.
I don't remember who this one is anymore. Okay, $5 from Jason Jones. We all know that bald halfling hobbit, kinder, or whatever you call them, it's always the best race to play. Spore Druid is my primary class. Hashtag Team Luxander.
You know, I was actually just talking on chat on my stream about like the upcoming TACIS this week and like who would be what. So I think Josie would be a cleric. just based on personality. And we decided that I said you would be barbarian, and the chat was like either barbarian or sorcerer. And I was like, I can see it. Yeah, totally.
I feel that. I always used to like, I know there's some like, I haven't played a lot of D&D to know all the different options, but there's like a spell sword class that I played one time that I really liked it because I'm like, that makes me feel like I can be all magical and tough and cool at the same time.
Yeah, so basically a barbarian sorcerer mixed together is like
Exactly.
the ideal
See,
thing.
you guys
my
figured
cat
it out.
has your number. Yeah.
There you go.
Hell yeah. $5 from Aliash on a Silverbow says, yesterday was my nephew's 4th birthday. I didn't recognize him at first. I've never seen him before. Hashtag Team Arden. That was a good
Oh,
one.
wow.
The
Oh,
pun. Did you miss the pun? I'd never seen him before.
okay. I did miss the pun, but now I've got it. Shame on you,
Yeah.
Aliashana. I'm sorry to say that I'm on team Erica about these puns. You guys have a problem, and it needs to be stopped at some point.
I think puns are the highest form of wordplay.
They make me want to cry
We'll have to debate.
sometimes.
But that's what makes them good. The more upset you are, the better the pun.
There is an element of the worse the pun is, the better the pun is in some element, because I'm like, you've successfully disappointed me so much that I am now laughing out of the discordance between how funny it should be and how funny it actually is. 10 New Zealand dollars from Christina Hankey. I came out trans femme December 23. 2 weeks ago, my nephew came out as trans mask. He was worried I'd be angry. Love him so much. Hashtag Team Arden. Oh, that's so cute.
Baby.
Oh.
Another $5 from Aliashana Silverbow says, we all know where the Big Apple is, but does anyone know where the Mini Apple is? It's I tripped in France. I fell over. Hashtag Team Arden. You managed to get like 2 of them in there.
That was
accurate, efficient use of your space is what I was trying to say.
I gotta give credit to Lex for its reading on that one though, because Big Apple is, Mini Apple is was I didn't think I would have gotten the pun if you didn't read that correctly. So good job. $5 from Dominic Mancini. Which event in the past 100 days would be the most unbelievable to yourself from 1 year ago? Exiling American citizens with cancer, and then the House GOP voting to not amend a law that would prevent that. It's well within their category of inhuman, disgusting behavior, and yet I'm still shocked that humanity can stoop so low. Yeah.
Yeah, what would be the most unbelievable? I don't know. It's all pretty crazy. What's something I've been genuinely surprised by? I guess I've been, genuinely surprised by like the openness with which ICE agents who are not marked in any way as government officials are like arresting people. The most unbelievable thing is that no one has yet responded to that in the way that Americans respond to people being violent and crazy in public. That seems like the most unbelievable thing that's happened so far.
It's all so sickening. It's genuinely hard to believe sometimes. It shouldn't be. I mean, this is like America's legacy. It's just, I feel like it's more on display and exposed than it has been. So, yeah.
Like a lot of the stupidity has been like underground for most of our lives. And so it coming out in full force this way. But, that's why we bitched about Biden, is because he set the stage for all of this. That's what happened.
I think this one's you.
Aliashana Silverbro for another $5. Thank you. Says, a church was infested with insects, so the priest said, let us spray. Do they allow loud laughing in Hawaii or just aloha? Hashtag Team Arden.
You don't even get aloha from me on that one. See, now that's a real joke. $5 from Haley Geringer. Hey, Arden, going to see Thunderbolts? I have high hopes, but lately MCU has been dashing those hopes over and over. Hope it's good. Hashtag Team Lex. Yeah, I haven't been hating the MCU as much as a lot of people have, but I've heard this is supposed to be the best since Endgame, apparently, from a lot of people. It's got like a 90+% on like Rotten Tomatoes or something like that, which is like pretty fucking hard to come by, especially for a Marvel movie. So Speaking of which, we may have to pick up our pace a little because they are coming in, and I got about 45 minutes before we have to leave, so we should be good. But just
Totally.
yeah.
5 pounds from Jessica says, where did you both get inspiration for your names? I never heard the name Arden before. Your presentation was amazing. Hashtag Team Arden for your hard work. My name was the result of lots of typing things into Google Translate and then translating it into different languages and then deciding what I liked and then not knowing that I accidentally fucked it up later.
And then just rolling with it. You're like,
Yeah, well, it's like lux means light in Latin, but I pulled it from the word fluxa, which means it's like the evolution into like fluctuating. So it was supposed to be like changing, ephemeral, gender fluid kind of reference. Yeah, it turns out I named myself Lucifer, basically.
I mean, rad though.
Yeah.
Arden came from my mom. She read a book when I was trying to decide my name when I was like 14, and we were kind of mulling over things. I was actually almost going to pick Olivia for a really long time. That had been something I wanted since I was like a little kid to be called Olivia. I think it's because there was a girl, Olivia, that was like a grade older than me who I really liked. I don't think she liked me, but I really liked her. And then eventually my mom was like, oh, I just read this name in a book. I think you'd really like it. It's Arden. And I was like, instantly, I was like, that's the one. That's what I want. So
nice.
Yeah. 489 from June Urek. The idea that someone's gender and therefore social rules is determined by their genitals is some astrology level thinking. True. Yeah, it is. Oop. There you go. Very silly stuff.
$5 from Mr. Kiki1 says, the most surefire, scientific, accurate, peer-reviewed, demonstrable way to determine how someone identifies is to ask them. Bigots hate this one trick. True. Yeah. Someone in my chat was just saying that, like, basically the desire to have trans people go to a doctor before getting medical care is basically just self-ID with extra steps.
Literally.
And I was like, damn, that's true. Yeah.
That is so fucking true. I'm going to start saying it that way because that is a really effective way to convey the point. 15 of these video game monies from Mishy Fishy. Oh no, this is is it Myanmar? You called. Fishy called last week, but I can't remember where from. I always admire how good your glasses look on you. Totally powerful, typical item on your face can make you look. Hashtag team glasses. Thank you so much. Yeah, I got these actually from I think it was like Warby Parker or one of those like affordable pay to like you get to try on a bunch of pair and then send them back, and cool. I like these ones a lot. Yeah.
I need all the time glasses. I have reading glasses and I refuse to wear them. I need to get new ones.
These are my all the time glasses. They used to be reading glasses and then my eyes got worse, so
totally. $20 from Mr. Boricua10. Thank you. Says, howdy from work. Missed the show. Was busy as frick. Hope it was a good show. Here's some monies and loves for my transgressions. Came through at Giddy's call. Hashtag Team Mitternacht. Hashtag posers can bugger off. Hashtag much love to all. Okay, I'll do it. I'll do it a second time.
Let's send the next one through. Oh, look at that baby. $10 from Fran to Pie. More people should vote Arden. Hashtag Team Lux. Nice. That's really good. Look at that baby.
Thank you for the 5 Canadian units from Quantum Chaos. Says, I said I wouldn't, but you told me I had to. So hashtag Team Arden.
Thank you.
You're such a teddy bear.
Quantus Nachos is my favorite chatter. Josie just done that like 3 times, and so now it's like a bit. It's so funny.
It's funny.
$20 from Andy Junction. Did I do it right? Not if you're voting for someone, but that's okay. Nope. We appreciate the $20. That's right enough for us.
5 Canadian from Quantum Nachos again, but also canceling my vote out. Hashtag Team Lux. Oh no.
You know, that's the only way we'll allow it. So $20 from Andy Junction. I don't think I did it right.
Nope, you sure didn't. But thank you. Oh, okay. $20 from Andy Junction. Sorry, I think I got it now. Thank you. It's very generous.
I'm still not sure if you got it right, but thank you anyway. You know, it's good enough. We're happy with it. $5 from Space Barbarian. Would it help if a bunch of us cis dudes visited the U.S. Capitol men's rooms in drag? Hashtag Team Arden.
I mean, it would certainly be civil disobedience of a sort.
Yeah, there's definitely an element of that can be useful. I don't know if necessarily cis men doing it is the way, although this is hard. I feel like motivating cis men to be more actively involved is one of the most important things for us going forward. Like, I mean, we just need the most powerful group in existence to care about our cause. So, like, yeah, we do need some sort of action like that. I feel like I would be less bothered by a group of trans men kind of doing something like that, but also, I don't know. I just am thinking of all the ways that would be weaponized against us, but also they're going to weaponize everything against us. So at a certain point, I don't really know if I fucking care. Yeah. Maybe.
Whatever. Yeah, make it fun, I guess.
Yeah.
Make participation fun. $10 from a Dragon Ate Me says, joined late, was busy having convos with two awesome coworkers, cis-het white men in Texas, offering support and solidarity in these hard times. Is hashtag Team Dragon for Lux still, or both of you? Yeah, you know, my branding on my show is Dragon, but you also are weird like me. Yeah.
You can have the vote. I definitely, I do love my dragons, but it's fair. That is like your niche. So
the fake documentary.
I haven't rewatched it. I have to. I got to get Matt to sit down. I am so glad you found it, because now we're definitely gonna watch it at some point. But if y'all don't know, there was this really cringy old like fake documentary about dragons that I watched when I was like a tiny little kid. I think it was on the Animal Planet, or it could have been Discovery Channel or something. And they basically go over like, if dragons were real, this is what they would have been like in the distant past, and is there any evidence for them? It's very much in line with like the History Channel's brand now. But as a kid, I was totally convinced. I was like, holy shit, dragons are real. I know all these things about their mating behavior. Yeah.
True. Bad dragon. $5 from a Dragon Ate Me says, I have long hair because I'm a metalhead, not because I'm AFAB. Not good for my dysphoria, but then I go to a metal show and mosh to feel better. True. Trying to do it without fucking up my neck or ejecting my headphones.
Every time I try to headbang, I'm like, man, I used to be able to do this when I was in my early 20s. I'm not even that old, but I already feel too old to do that. How does this happen?
Yeah. Gotta be careful.
$9.99 from Poor Claire. I would say that to the tactical guy, that dressing for functionality is a masculine thing to do. He thinks he's escaping gender roles, but he's not. Would he wear tactical clothes in pink/purple? Yeah, that's a good way.
Question.
Yeah, that is a good way to put. Maybe that's good for Giddy, if you're still watching, to maybe kind of pose that question towards him.
Hell yeah. $10 from Game Master Flash says, my girlfriend lives in the EU and I would never ask her to come back here under Trump, but things are dark for a lot of my LGBTQIA friends. Is it cowardly to move there to be with her? Hashtag Team Arden. No, not
Definitely
cowardly. No. Brave in its own completely separate way of uprooting your entire life and moving across an entire ocean. That's not easy.
No, definitely not. And I'm sure like your partner feels alone, you know, like the fact that you would go there and be with her could be really helpful for her. And maybe you guys could do more advocacy like remotely from where you are.
Help get people out of here, like by being part of a pipeline. I know somebody who's moving from Texas to France. We need people there to be supportive community as well.
$5 from El Chemist. I don't remember. Thanks a lot for your answer, Lux. It honestly helped me frame my own experiences and journey now on hashtag Team Lux. Sorry, Arden. No apologies necessary. Lux is pretty fucking cool, so
that's true.
It's valid.
There's no hate. There's only love. $10 from Game Master Flash. Oh, my girlfriend is trans, by the way. I ran out of characters, so have more money. Hashtag Team Arden. Yes, I figured that was the case.
Yeah, I think we put that together.
Even in Europe, things are not necessarily good. Like, it depends on where in Europe you are. So, you know, shit's weird everywhere you go.
Terrifying. Another $4.99 from Poor Claire. Also, making yourself look good is very tactical, yet he's not doing that. Hashtag Team Arden. Yeah, there's a million ways you can spin this whole like notion of tactical dress that just doesn't make any fucking sense in reality. I just very firmly hold on to the notion that like, why is shaved head or short hair the most tactical? Is his hair completely shaved? Like, if you're gonna go that route, then you should be like straight razoring yourself bald every single day, right? Like, if grabbing hair is a potential risk in your eyes, like, it is very obviously to me this like post hoc rationalization for why you do the things you do and not actually your motivation.
Yeah. $5 from Sentient Tree, my new favorite person, says, you don't let him sleep in bed, Lux? Hashtag Team Arden. Yeah. So my cat has the ability to get in my bed all day. He sleeps in there. But at nighttime, listen, it's difficult enough with two human beings in a bed to get a good night's sleep. So yes, he's not allowed in the bed at night. And I feel bad. And I'm going to get him a kitten so that he has someone to hang out with at night.
Yeah, our cat is not also allowed in the bedroom at night. She is like, why is nobody paying attention to me? I think I should break some stuff. That'll help. And then and then I'm up and angry at her. And so that doesn't help anyone.
And you have to leave the door open so that the cat can come and go. And I want the door closed at night. I have a partner that I have sex with, and I have a younger sibling in the house, and the door has to be shut at night. So
yeah. $4.99 from JW Edgy. Next roofing job I'll do, I'll show up in booty shorts and a sports bra. If questioned, I'll respond, it's tactical not to overheat. True.
Yeah, working on roofs fucking sucks. It's not fun. $5 from X Million says, yay, I'm in time to view raccoons versus turfs live. Hashtag Arden.
That's one of the options. That's the winning option for the poll. Lux, you weren't here when I announced them. The poll options are all clothing must be tactical. HRT is dispensed via kissing booths, or turfs must duel a raccoon for rights.
Okay.
So it looks like that might be the gearing up for the winner.
Nice. $4.99 from June Urich says, tarot as a means of accessing your subconscious seems like an actual legit use, though. Hashtag Team Lux. Yeah. Anybody who is not trying to sell you something will tell you that tarot is just a means by which for you to understand your own motivations and desires. It's not like a magic fucking 8-ball or whatever. It's not a crystal ball telling you like things about your future or whatever. You only use it as a means to understand what you're going through right now.
See, I even have a hard time using it for that because I know that I'm using it for that purpose. I feel like it stops working. I feel like maybe if I kind of like, it's just for me personally, like the second I start using it for that purpose, I'm like, then I start being like, well, do I really feel that way? Or am I thinking that because the stupid fucking card came up and it made me think in that direction? And then I'm like, then it stops being useful for me. So, but I appreciate that.
You can also do something as simple as flipping a coin, where it's like, if you feel a sense of indecisiveness and you flip a coin, and then how you feel about the answer is your actual answer. Like, it can help you kind of figure out what you actually feel about it. So I use it in a similar way to that.
That makes sense. $10 from Mo Scoville. Hey Mo, long time no see. I made it live. Can't watch until later. I'm sure it was spicy. Always hashtag Team Arden. I don't know that we got super spicy today. I honestly thought a few of those calls were gonna get spicier, but nope. There were a ton of spicy people in chat who were like just talking mad shit, but they're all fucking cowards and they don't call in. I'm like, I'm so sorry that you're such a fucking pathetic loser that you'd rather sit in chat where you're going to get muted than actually call in and test your beliefs that you just are so confident about. But yeah, no, unfortunately it didn't get spicy because everyone's fucking afraid.
It's also interesting. I think it's because Matt is also a public figure that people speculate about you guys' sex life, but nobody is sitting here wondering about my partner and what I do. I don't know. Maybe it's because you're hotter.
Somebody called him the F slur live on, I think it was on Sunday. And we left it in because the reaction that, I think it was Forrest and Matt together that they gave to it was just like really, really strong, like kind of like mockery of the whole thing. Like it was so silly. And he was clearly so emotional for the fact that his arguments were so fucking failing that he was just like, slur. I don't know. I thought it was entertaining. I was like, honestly, I think this is a good learning moment for a lot of people. And what a good deconversion tool to be like, wow, this guy failed so hard to give his arguments. All he could do was just like shout slurs. Like, that's really embarrassing.
Yeah, it is. It is embarrassing.
But yeah, it's so crazy. People speculate about our sex life all the time. And I'm like, it's just very strange. Like,
Weirdos.
I know.
I personally don't spend very much of my time imagining old men having sex. But maybe that's just a me thing. I don't know. It's weird. $5 from Alia Shauna Silverbow. Arden hating on my jokes, crying. Time to cancel out one of my previous Arden votes. Hashtag Team Lux. Yep, there you go.
Nice. I'm sorry to say that. Occasionally I will laugh at the pun, but I am a little bit on Team Erica about this. $5 from Maud. America is vacillating between grim dark and grim derp. There is no Guilliman. I don't know what that is. Coming to save it. Hashtag Team Arden.
I don't know what that is either.
The double L, it makes me want to use a Y sound for it, but I don't know if that's just because I live around a lot of Spanish speakers.
Guilliman. I just don't know who that is. My brain is going like Guillermo del Toro. I don't think that's right though.
Jason Derulo. Well, I don't know.
Jason Derulo.
There you go.
$5 from Alia Shauna Silverbow says, see what happens when those you vote for turn on you. Rise up. Hashtag Team Lux. Rise up. Thank you.
Rise up. You know what? That's fine. I can talk about turfs.
Here. I'll literally rise up.
There you go. $5 from Alia Shauna Silverbow. Arden will rue the day she betrayed me. Zeroing out my Arden votes now. Hashtag Team Lux. We're not done yet.
More money. Oh no. $5 from Alia Shauna Silverbow says, don't worry, Arden. I still love you, but I'm hashtag Team Lux now. That's what happens.
It's understandable. $50 from Mr. Boricua 10. Apparently, the name Lucifer is supposed to refer to Joshua himself, as he is always known as the way and the light. As per the New Testament, the path of his name's transliteration to English, Hebrew equals Yeshua, Lat Greek equals Jesus, but with the letter I, which equals Jesus. I'm not... Okay, Joshua was Yeshua.
How does Lucifer tie into that?
Yeah, I was a little struggling to see. I mean, I guess Lucifer kind of sounds like loose is kind of related to Lux, so there's like maybe the name has to do with light.
Lightbringer. That's the joke that I made, was that I basically named myself Lightbringer. But I just don't know how Yeshua like ties into that. I get, yeah, like he is the way and the light. Therefore, Lucifer in a way is like a Jesus character because he is bringing the light to something. I don't fucking know. I haven't done Bible shit in forever.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes language development feels like I'm looking at like cladistic branches where I'm like, I see how this one relates to this one, but man, there's a big gap here that I'm not totally seeing the transition there. But not that I need to know that evolution is true. But yeah, that feels a little bit like one of those things. That's okay. Yeah.
I'm Canadian from Quantum Chaos says, just canceling one of Alia Shauna's votes to keep my position as hashtag Team Arden's favorite.
Thank you, Quantum Chaos. I even said your name correctly that time as a sign of respect for my thank you. Although I can't lie, you do kind of live in my head now as Quantos Nachos.
Yeah.
Because also that question is always on my mind. Like, how many nachos are there? Because I do love me some nachos. So, you know, question just relates deeply to my soul.
Now I'm hungry and now I want nachos. I do not have the stuff to make nachos.
$5 from Mr. Boricua 10.
Doesn't
I think it's mine. Yeah, hashtag Team Luxander. There, another vote. That's fine. That's fine.
Mm-hmm.
That's good even.
It's good even.
It's good even. I can lose with my dignity, see.
I will not lose with dignity. I will be a foil to you by
That's fair.
throwing a fit. Yeah. $5 from Melatonin Ale says hashtag Team Arden, late to the party, but love y'all. Hearts.
Thank you so much. Good to see you,
Go
LA.
through all the different ways. If you're a millennial, you do this. And then the kids are doing this now. Yeah. They're doing this now. And then they're also doing this. This is the newest iteration, the tiny
I
one.
hate this one.
I know,
This one's
it's
so
the worst.
stupid.
I hate it.
This one I can almost get behind. Like I do see it, but I know people will do this a lot instead. Like this.
Oh, yeah.
I guess this doesn't make sense out of context either, but like I guess this was just heart for so long in my generation that like I don't know. I'm
And
I'm
you can go
old
up
now.
and do this with your friend. You can make a heart with your friend.
I mean, I love. Okay, there's one of those like old. I think this is like an old Vine that went viral where the doctor is like, or it's a dentist, and he reaches over for a tool and he goes like this, and the girl lying there puts her heart up to meet him. He like slaps her hand away.
I've
So
seen it
good.
with like construction workers. People make TikToks of that, and it is just like a slapping the hand away.
Yeah,
Perfect.
so good. $10 from Mr. Bordiqua 10 addendum as per Atspur the Sissy complicated in Revelation. He's referred to as the morning star. Similar language in Ezekiel and Isaiah. Check the info. Don't want to spread misinfo. Hashtag Team Lux. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I don't know that I know enough to or care enough to actually investigate it, if I'm being totally honest with you. But neat. I wouldn't be surprised that some sort of language things like that would happen. But with that, you guys,
Sometimes.
I have officially been crushed in this competition, and so let's put
Arden.
this down. I will get the banners for my rant session ready to go. And the topic
party hat
is
to be like, I won. I don't
do.
think I kept my party hat out from my birthday.
I want us to all have like a dunce hat for when you lose, you know? Where the loser has to wear a dunce hat. Must duel a raccoon for rights. I see Quantum Chaos. You gave me another one. Just don't do the Elon Musk heart. Hashtag Team Arden. Thank you, Quantum Chaos. It won't affect the vote, but we do appreciate. All right. I am ready. I am charging up the clock. In 3, 2, 1. All right, guys, listen. TERFs have been allowed to move about unencumbered for far too long. While some might say that a future where people all have the rights to, live their life is desirable, that is not enough for me anymore. They have pushed me too far. This is my villain origin story. I am taking over the entire universe and indeed our planet. And with that, trans people are going to be totally free to, access all the transition care you need, healthcare for everybody, all that good stuff, UBI, all the good stuff, except for TERFs. If TERFs want to gain their rights back to healthcare and housing and UBI and all that good stuff, they have to duel with a raccoon. They're not allowed to bring any weapons because I want to make sure it's a fair fight. And raccoons come with weapons, but TERFs suck, so they need to have some sort of deficit. They can't get their rights without sustaining a little bit of injury for it. So we're going to have them wrestle a raccoon. You can't really injure the raccoon long-term back, but you do have to subdue it in some capacity. So you're going to be stuck in a little cylindrical room. There's no escapes. There is one door that you both come in and out of, and it is like a whole ceremony. You have to dress in all white. So, all the blood that you spill throughout the fight has to be like stained on you, and then you take that picture. That's going to be your ID picture also going forward, by the way. We're just going full evil dictator here. You're going to have to wear your... Wow, this is really bad. They're so going to clip the shit out of this. You have to wear your bloody raccoon battle ID badge for all of time. And, then you still have limited rights. We probably won't give you UBI or something. That's too much for you. But, at least you can access like healthcare to fix those wounds and stuff. So, yeah, there you go. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Indeed. Well argued.
Thank you. I mean, they have built-in knives that shower songs. True. They have some sharp teeth and they have thumbs, bro. What if they bring knives? Oh, missed opportunity. I could have mentioned
Missed
that.
opportunity. Nice.
With that, everybody.
I'm like, how is it a duel? It's not very formal.
Yeah.
It's very informal. Just get in there.
this is just like an Olympic, duel to the death, like where there's no 10 steps or guns or anything like that. No. Yeah, but with that, everybody, thank you guys so much for being here. Lux, you doing anything this week you want to shout out on your channel before we run?
I stream on Sundays during the time that you should be watching The Line. So no, I don't have anything to plug.
Go watch Lux's channel too. You guys can watch both. All right, thank you guys so much. We appreciate you, and we'll be back next week. We don't know exactly who because loud music. The RFR fundraiser is next Saturday, May 10th, and so we might be getting Kara from the RFR. I'm waiting to hear back from them, but I would hope that they would be on to promo and to just be a voice here. So yeah, we'll let you guys know who's coming up, and see y'all next week.
Bye.